Chapter 26. When it comes to what Marvel fans are most excited to talk about, Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. is certainly an enduring delight. In the timeline of the Marvel Universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. looks like a great organization that protects the world at the beginning. The agents are all smart and capable, dedicating their light and heat to protecting the world. Then in Captain America 2, the audience was slapped hard. S.H.I.E.L.D. has actually been infiltrated by the sworn enemy Hydra. Even the former director Alexander Pierce is the high-level leader of Hydra. I have to say that this setting surprised many people at the time. Therefore, the name Snake S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau also spread. Kerrigan was a little surprised that she was being targeted, but wasn't worried. If these rats were waiting to die peacefully, she wouldn't care. If they dared to bar their teeth at her, Kerrigan wouldn't mind pulling their heads off to see if they could grow another head. Colonel Emil Bronsky, your mission this time is to go to Pakistan to capture this person. General Ross handed the strong man in front of him a photo. The photo showed a gentle man wearing glasses and seemed to be a scientist. Bronsky nodded. Having worked for General Ross for many years, he would not be stupid enough to ask about the background of the target and then just arrest him. Be safe, this man is very dangerous. As soon as General Ross finished speaking, Bronsky saluted and left. General Ross frowned and could only hope that everything went well. It seems to be good luck. 2 days ago, an old man bought a bottle of soda from Pakistan and felt full of energy. The military received the news and recovered the bottle of soda, and analyzed that the soda contained Hulk's genes. So General Ross sent out his capable generals without saying a word, preparing to capture Bruce Banner. The world is becoming increasingly unstable, and the military desperately needs stronger power. The far North Pole. A giant weather balloon is flying slowly along the airflow over the North Pole. But inside the weather balloon, there is a different cave, where countless Zerg species are sleeping. It turns out that this is a king insect disguised as a weather balloon. The king insects obey Kerrigan's orders and float around the world, watching for changes in the world at any time. Although the king bugs are extremely tolerant to the environment, the cold weather in the Arctic still makes them a little uncomfortable. They have to consume a lot of resources to keep the inside of their bodies warm to prevent the bugs from freezing to death. There is no way, the bugs are not cold resistant, but Kerrigan still transformed these Zerg in advance, at least giving them the ability to go into the water to catch food. Although it did not last long, at least they would not starve to death on the vast sea. An insect queen slowly woke up. She received a message from the king insect that her resources were running low and she needed to add some food. The queen immediately awakened the other Zerg, preparing to wait for the king worm to land and let the Zerg find some food. The king insect landed slowly, and the insect swarm braved the cold wind and jumped into the cold and biting sea water in search of food. A springtail that had just dived into the sea suddenly discovered a huge thing frozen in the ice in front of it. It notified the queen of worms without any hesitation. The ice was forcibly moved out of the sea by the Zerg. The insect queen looked at the huge steel creation in the ice and was quite surprised, because she could feel that there was still the breath of life in this steel creation. Crack these ice cubes. The swarm of insects swarmed up, broke the ice, and dragged out the steel creation. The insect queen walked into the steel creation and found that there was another human being frozen in ice. This human was dressed a little funny, wearing a red, blue, and white combat uniform, and holding a round shield in his hand. And the breath of life is in this human being. It really amazes me. How did this human being retain the breath of life even though he was frozen? The insect queen was confused, but quickly passed the news to Kerrigan. Kerrigan, who had just finished training, was stunned for a moment, then chuckled. I didn't expect that the swarm of insects unexpectedly discovered Captain America, collected a copy of his genes, and sent me the coordinates to keep him intact. Just throw him back into the ice, this guy is not the one we need. As you command, Queen. After receiving the order, the insect queen took action. After collecting Captain America's blood sample, she returned to the king insect's body with the swarm of insects that had finished eating, and flew away without looking back. Kerrigan tapped the table lightly, thinking about how to use Captain America's news to add another touch to S.H.I.E.L.D. Although the umbrella now belongs to her, Kerrigan has no intention of letting the umbrella become another insect nest of the Zerg. Plans to select an agent to promote the new umbrella company into human society. Only in this way will she not be hostile to all humans when the Zerg are truly exposed in the future. Humanity prides itself on being the leader of all spirits. The sudden emergence of the Zerg, the only intelligent creature on this planet, will definitely cause a lot of panic. If Kerrigan doesn't plan ahead, a group attack will definitely happen. Kerrigan, who was once a human, understands human thoughts very well. Nick Fury is listening to Phil Coulson's report with a dark face. Very early on, he asked Phil Coulson to send people to find the legendary figure from World War II, the superhero Captain America. This legendary figure was taken to the North Pole by plane and disappeared when he raided Hydra's base in World War II. Nick Fury thought he was not dead yet, so he wanted to bring him back and wake him up to deal with the increasingly difficult situation. Nick Fury had a new plan in mind. Originally, he planned to invite Iron Man Tony Stark to join this project, so that he could help him develop a special drug to inhibit palladium poisoning. Unexpectedly, the Queen of the Zerg Kerrigan solved this problem first. Now Tony is very interested in SHIELD. But he doesn't like it. After all, they are spying on him. This makes Tony, who is arrogant, look good to Nick Fury. Now, the people who went to the North Pole to look for Captain America are also in trouble. The North Pole is so big, and finding a person who may be frozen in ice is tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. Keep checking. Nick Fury waved and Phil Coulson turned and left. Fury rubbed his brows tiredly. The messy things these days had really made him mentally exhausted. If he hadn't been bald, his hair might have turned white by now. Jingle bell. The phone in front of me suddenly rang. Which one? Nick Fury, would you be interested in doing some business? The voice on the other end of the phone was a little lazy and careless. But Nick Fury only felt cold in his heart. Bleeding profusely again. Palestinian, Hezinian ghetto. Bruce Banner quickly packed his luggage and rushed out of the dormitory. As someone who could escape the pursuit of the beautiful country's military, he was keenly aware that he was being targeted. He quickly thought that he might have been accidentally injured before and his blood fell into the drink bottle before he was discovered. Just now, he saw someone holding his portrait and asking questions, so he packed his luggage without any hesitation and prepared to run away. He wanted to return to the beautiful country to get back the body data he had stored, and by the way, he found the netizen Dr. Lan to solve the problem. Hulk's problem. Not long after Banner left, a group of heavily armed soldiers rushed into his dormitory, only to find that the building was already empty. Bronski frowned, "You haven't run far yet, let me chase you." Soldiers scattered in the area immediately began searching. Banner carried the package, cleverly avoided the sight of the interrogators, and prepared to run towards the port. But unfortunately, he was still discovered, and Banner could only turn around and run away. The soldiers followed immediately. With his familiarity with the terrain, he temporarily got rid of the pursuers and looked at the direction. Banner was about to change to a smaller path. At this moment, several figures stopped in front of him. The leading man is a bald man with colorful tattoos on his arms. The bald man walked up to Banner and patted his face. "UBD, you just ruined my good deeds, now I want to teach you a lesson." Chapter 27. Just in the morning, this group of people wanted to bully one of Banner's female colleagues, and he acted righteously and stopped them. Banner said in his heart that it was terrible, he met these guys again. He whispered, "Go away. Hey, hit me." Seeing that Banner dared to be so arrogant when he was alone, the bald man called on his younger brothers to take action without saying a word. Banner is unwilling to take action against these ordinary people, because once angry, Hulk's anger will definitely tear these people into pieces. He could only endure it silently, but the heart rate monitor on his wrist showed that his heart rate was rising crazily. "No, don't fight, I'll get angry." Banner yelled eagerly, but these idiots didn't care about that. The bald man laughed loudly, "Hey, you can still get angry. Why don't you show me how angry you are?" As he spoke, his attacks became more ruthless. Not far away, Bronski and others had discovered Banner and others and were ready to take action. After being beaten so violently, Banner's heart rate rose higher and higher, and then exceeded 200. He suddenly lowered his head. When he raised his head again, his pupils were already covered in green. The bald man watched helplessly as the skinny guy's body expanded rapidly, his muscles bulged, and his skin turned green. In just an instant, he turned into a muscular monster nearly 3 meters tall. The bald man was so frightened that he ran away, only to be pulled into the darkness by a giant green hand. Then, he was completely thrown out by a huge force. He was thrown dozens of meters away like a broken doll. He was vomiting blood and looked dead. The men were startled and ran away, but how could they survive? With just a few breaths, several Yakuza were thrown all over the floor. Fire! Vronsky ordered without hesitation. The soldiers fired in unison, but the bullets had no effect on the monster, just like tickling him. Hulk, who was attacked, was not polite and launched a counterattack at the soldiers without saying a word. He used the metal parts weighing several tons around him as weapons and threw them at everyone. Several soldiers had no time to dodge and were smashed to pieces. Vronsky jumped onto the high platform and continued shooting at Hulk, who was about to hit him again. Hulk ignored him. After his soldiers were beaten away by Hulk like they were chopping melons and vegetables, Blonsky finally turned to the light and saw the monster's face clearly. It was a human-like face, but extremely ferocious, like a beast. After Hulk dealt with these soldiers, he raised the crane at hand and roared. Vronsky thought he was going to attack him and hurriedly avoided, only to hear a loud noise. Hulk smashed the wall open with a crane and jumped away without looking back. Vronsky gritted his teeth with hatred, threw the weapon in his hand to the ground, and trampled it hard. Vronsky returned to the military base in embarrassment. He found his boss, General Ross, and asked in a low voice the truth of the matter. General Ross was silent for a moment, and then explained everything to him. Actually, Bruce Banner participated in our Super Soldier program without knowing it. This program originally existed during World War II and gave birth to a legendary figure, Captain Steve Rogers, who was more beautiful than Captain. Unfortunately, he developed a serum. The scientist was later killed by spies, so he became the only super soldier. Bruce Banner was another result we obtained later, but an accident occurred during the experiment and he escaped. Vronsky whispered, "General, I have always been proud of being a soldier and a warrior. I want to continue to hunt Bruce Banner as a warrior. I need stronger power." As a proud soldier, Vronsky definitely longed for greater power. The failure he received from Banner made him feel particularly humiliated, especially when Banner ran away without even looking at him, which made him feel even more insulted. "Vronsky, you are almost 50 years old this year." General Ross spoke slowly. Vronsky knew what he meant. To get the super soldier serum, at least you need to be a strong young man, and Vronsky, who is almost 50 years old, might not be able to get off the operating table. "General, I want to prove myself," Vronsky said calmly. "Well, good luck to you." General Ross patted him on the shoulder and immediately arranged for someone to inject him with the minimum dose of super soldier serum. Bruce Banner returned to his previous job at Calvary University. His purpose this time was to get back his physical data that had been stored in the university. Suddenly, he noticed his girlfriend Betty Ross, sitting leisurely on a chair on the school lawn, seemingly waiting for someone. Banner wanted to go up and see the person he thought about day and night, but unexpectedly found a tall man walking towards Betty. When Betty saw the man, she smiled happily and chatted easily with him. Banner's heart twitched, and he retreated silently. "Now that I am a monster, what gives Betty happiness?" He was dejected and left the school silently. At night, Banner disguised himself as a delivery boy and sneaked into the school. He was surprised to find that all the information he had saved was gone. Banner frowned, turned around and ran away. After returning to his temporary residence, he packed his luggage and prepared to run away without saying a word. "Good evening, you two. What would you like to eat?" At this moment, he heard the voice of the restaurant owner in the front hall. Banner glanced curiously through the window and was surprised to find that the people coming were his girlfriend and the man. Banner's heart felt like it was tearing apart, and he hurried towards the back door of the restaurant. However, Betty had already noticed the movement, and with just a quick glance, she recognized who the person was. Without saying anything, she left the man and got up and chased after him. But at the back door of the restaurant, she searched several times but found no trace. "Banner! Bruce Banner, I know you're here, come out!" Betty shouted with tears in her eyes, but got no response. The man in the restaurant came out and asked about the situation, but Betty covered her mouth and left without looking back. She didn't know that Bruce Banner was hiding behind a trash can not far away, covering his mouth with tears streaming down his face. Banner left the restaurant and walked on the road absent-mindedly. It was raining, but Banner didn't notice it, letting the cold icy rain hit his face randomly. He didn't know where he was going, and his life had lost its direction at this moment. Suddenly, a car suddenly stopped behind him, and a woman rushed out of the car. She braved the heavy rain and walked behind Banner. I just know, you're not dead. It's Betty." In the luxurious hotel, Kerrigan slowly opened her eyes. "It's finally digested." "Yes, the psychic level has been improved. She slowly gathered her palms into fists. Now, facing the Ancient One, I should be able to fight. Chapter 28. Kerrigan stayed behind closed doors these days just to digest her power. Now that it's done, Kerrigan is in a good mood and plans to go out for a walk, staying in the hotel until her bones are rusty. She drove to the insect nest and followed the passage to the Umbrella New underground base that had been transformed by the insect. Jerry came up to us with a big smile. Your Majesty, welcome to the Umbrella. Kerrigan nodded, and Jerry immediately took Kerrigan on a tour. Inside the Umbrella, the insect queens were busy conducting research on various genes. These insect queens were also wearing white gowns in a serious manner, which made Kerrigan feel a little weird. After Abathur was ordered to start research, he immersed himself in the laboratory. Now in the Umbrella base, it is Jerry, a parasitized human, who calls the shots. But Kerrigan didn't mind. As long as the dog is obedient, she doesn't care about humans or insects. Yes, Jerry, you are very attentive. Kerrigan looked at the research progress and was very satisfied. It is my honor to serve you and the Zerg, Your Majesty. Jerry said humbly. Kerrigan chuckled and said, to reward you for your hard work, how about I remove the larvae from your body? Kerrigan thought Jerry would be overjoyed and agreed immediately. After all, the feeling of being controlled about life and death must not be good. However, Jerry gritted his teeth and said, Your Majesty, please do not remove the larvae from my body. Oh? Have you thought about it? Your life now only depends on my thoughts. Are you really not afraid? The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. Jerry knelt down directly. Your Majesty, it is my honor to serve you. My life has long been yours. Kerrigan nodded with satisfaction. If Jerry had agreed just now, she would have ordered the larvae to get out of Jerry's body without hesitation and kill him. Now that you are working for the Zerg, want to run away? Kerrigan leaves no trace of trouble. Jerry raised his head and said with a smile, But Your Majesty, I really have a request. Speak. Kerrigan was in a good mood now and wanted to hear what the good dog would ask for. Ahem, Your Majesty, I would like to ask, do you intend to introduce a new umbrella company to human society? Jerry asked cautiously. You have a good eye. Kerry said willingly, but his face remained calm. What do you think? Your Majesty, Jerry believes that you took down the protective umbrella not only to vent your anger, but also to have other ideas. Since the Zerg have not directly gone to war with humans, it means that you may be thinking about cooperating with humans. Then the new protective umbrella appears. In front of the world, it's a sure thing. Jerry said proudly, definitely, the new umbrella needs to appear in front of the world, and it will definitely not work in the face of the Zerg. I think you will definitely need a loyal servant to cover it, so that you can continue to research and grow the Zerg. Kerrigan stood up and looked at Jerry. The smile on Jerry's face slowly disappeared, and his palms became slightly sweaty. After he joined the Zerg these days, he carefully observed the social structure of the Zerg and quickly made a plan. These Zerg only obey Kerrigan's orders. Therefore, as long as he tries his best to please Kerrigan, even Jerry, a prisoner of the Zerg, can embark on the road to wealth. He practiced civil and military skills and sold them to the Emperor's family. This is the wish of countless scholars throughout the ages. Jerry is not a professional scientific research talent, and joining the Umbrella is purely based on connections. Although he is now forced to join the Zerg, the Queen of the Zerg is also the king. The power of the Zerg is so powerful, and its ability in genetic development shocked even the half-empty Jerry. As long as he becomes the spokesperson of the Zerg in the human world, Jerry can still worry about wealth. That's what Jerry thought and did. But now it seems that he has flattered the horse in the leg. He was sweating profusely and didn't dare to look at Kerrigan. Just when he thought he was certain to die, Kerrigan's voice sounded. That's right, I didn't expect you to have such knowledge. I agree with your idea. Make a plan for me. The Zerg will support you with funds and you will recruit people to form a new umbrella. Definitely, this base belongs to the Zerg. You need to build a new base yourself. Jerry was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly, Please believe in me, Your Majesty, I will not let you down. It's best, do your own thing, the Zerg won't treat you badly. After saying a few words lightly, Kerrigan turned and left. Congratulations to Your Majesty. Jerry kowtowed to Kerrigan's back. Walking on the passage, Kerrigan's mouth curved slightly. It was great. I was still considering whether to let Mary Jane be the spokesperson for the Zerg, but Jerry jumped right out. Kerrigan could see that Jerry was a pure egoist. As long as it was beneficial, he didn't care whether working for the Zerg would betray humanity. The Zerg also need this kind of person. With Betty's help, Banner returned to school again and successfully found the hidden information, which he immediately began to delete. At this time, there was a sudden roar in the sky. Banner looked up and was shocked to see 2 armed helicopters flying from the sky. He could also see a large number of military vehicles and soldiers rushing into the school and running towards the teaching building where he was. "Betty, go quickly," Banner said solemnly. He knew that he was still discovered. Betty bit her lip. "It must be Dad. I'll go find him and ask him to stop hunting." After that, she quickly ran down the stairs, and Banner, who had no time to stop her, sighed. "Silly Betty, how could your father let me go?" Betty opened her arms, stopped in front of the car, and shouted, "Dad, please, let Banner go." General Ross ordered the car to stop, jumped out of the car and looked at his baby daughter seriously. "Betty, Daddy will meet any of your requests, but for this one, absolutely not." While he ordered the adjutant to keep an eye on Betty, he said, "Everyone surround the teaching building and we must not let Bruce Banner escape." The soldiers came to the teaching building and opened fire into the building. During the explosion, Banner sighed slightly. Immediately, his pupils were instantly surrounded by green. Roar! Only a roar was heard, and a huge figure appeared in the smoke of the explosion. He jumped up, jumped onto the lawn, and roared at the armored convoy. "Fire! Fire!" The soldiers suppressed the fear in their hearts and attacked Hulk, but in the face of the Hulk's powerful physical defense, the bullets were as painless as hitting someone with peanuts. Hulk's big slap is like a shield, sweeping away all incoming bullets. The armored vehicles rushed out, and the .50 caliber heavy machine guns formed a fire net to cover Hulk, but in the next moment, several armored vehicles were torn into pieces by Hulk like tearing paper. The angry Hulk was about to attack other soldiers when there was a sudden explosion behind him. This attack made Hulk feel pain. He turned around and saw a soldier holding a howitzer, firing as he approached. Hulk didn't understand why this ant dared to challenge him. But he was never afraid of a challenge. With a roar, he instantly rushed to the soldier's face and punched him hard. Chapter 29. This soldier is none other than Bronsky, who has just received the lowest dose of super soldier serum. Seeing Hulk's attack, Bronsky rushed forward with confidence. He moved extremely quickly and easily dodged Hulk's fist. His right leg turned into a whip shadow and kicked Hulk. Hulk also didn't expect that this ant could defeat him twice. But this aroused his anger even more. Hulk is huge and his movements are somewhat slow, but every punch seems to shatter the air, and the sound of breaking through the air can be heard from time to time across the lawn. Although Bronsky had taken over the transformation, he couldn't dare to confront such terrifying power. He could only dodge and give Hulk back from time to time. But he was always injected with the lowest dose of super soldier serum. How could he compare to the almost infinite Hulk in terms of physical strength? After only a few minutes of fighting, he was at a disadvantage and was about to lose. General Ross, who was watching the battle, frowned and said solemnly, "Activate the infrasonic weapon." The infrasound waves emitted by this weapon will intensify the flow of cells in Hulk's body, making him extremely uncomfortable. General Ross also used this weapon to suppress Hulk before, but unfortunately he ran away in the end. The infrasonic weapon worked as expected. Hulk held his head and howled in agony. General Ross nodded with satisfaction and was about to order his men to fire tranquilizer bombs and capture Hulk. At this moment, Hulk roared wildly and jumped into the infrasonic weapon camp like a meteorite falling from the sky. Before anyone had time to react, Hulk smashed these annoying things into pieces. He also kicked Bronsky, who was catching up, but Bronsky did not escape and crashed into a big tree. General Ross's pupils shrank and he shouted, "Helicopter fire!" He didn't notice that his precious daughter broke free from the restraints and rushed out. By the time he found out, it was too late. Betty stood in front of Hulk, trying to stop the helicopter from firing, but the firing command had already been issued, and the cannons on the armed helicopter were spitting flames and were about to devour Hulk and Betty. Hulk bravely protected Betty and took advantage of the helicopter's turn to throw away the scraps of metal on the ground. "We're hit! We're hit!" As soon as the pilot shouted a few words, the crashing helicopter turned into a ball of fire. Hulk picked up Betty, who fainted due to the aftermath of the explosion, looked at General Ross, who was livid, and jumped away in a few steps. "Your Majesty, this is the plan I made." Jerry sneered and handed the document in his hand to Kerrigan. He said extremely humbly, "Thank you very much, Your Majesty, for allowing me to go home to visit my relatives." Kerrigan flipped through the plan and nodded with satisfaction, "I didn't expect you to be so proficient in operations and management. You shouldn't be a researcher." Jerry was praised by Kerrigan, with a bright smile on his face, "I didn't realize that I had this ability before. It is your presence that makes my hidden ability useful." Kerrigan smiled to herself. "This guy flatters you and keeps doing the same thing." She sat up slightly, "The plan has been approved. I have contacted SHIELD. They will mobilize some scientific researchers to join your team. You need to establish a new protective umbrella in the shortest possible time, and at the same time develop high-quality and low-cost products that are beneficial to the human body. Abathur will also help you complete the research on beneficial drugs. I will not be involved in the management of the new umbrella. You will be solely responsible for it. I will allocate funds for you to open the market in the early stage. Although the Zerg do not care about money, I do not want to create a company you can't get in and out of, do you understand?" I understand, Your Majesty. I will make the new umbrella profitable as soon as possible, but why don't we develop high-priced drugs? Wouldn't that make money faster?" Jerry nodded repeatedly and asked his question again. Kerrigan stood up and said calmly, "Short-sighted, what's the point of the Zerg wanting human money? The new umbrella only wants fame, do you understand?" Jerry suddenly realized, "Yes, Your Majesty. Go down, don't let me down." As commanded. Jerry walked out of the throne room of the insect nest and breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that His Majesty really has no intention of becoming an enemy of mankind, so he has no psychological burden at all. Even if he pursues wealth, Jerry doesn't want to see humans and Zerg being hostile. In that case, his white glove will definitely be regarded as a thorn in the human eye and a thorn in the flesh. Now that he knew Kerrigan's thoughts, the stone in his heart fell to the ground. Jerry, who had no worries, started his plan with confidence. Bruce Banner lay on the experimental table and slowly closed his eyes. With the help of Betty, he found Dr. Lan, a netizen living in Brooklyn, New York. With Betty's encouragement, he decided to accept Dr. Lan's experiment and try to completely transform back into a human being. On the other side, General Ross's men also found his communication records with Dr. Lan. They decided to follow the network cable to find Banner. Bronsky slowly opened his eyes. The medical staff around him breathed a sigh of relief. "Colonel, you are so lucky. It is a miracle that you can still survive such a heavy blow." The corner of Bronsky's mouth twitched and he said dejectedly, "Where is Bruce Banner?" "Ran away." General Ross appeared at the door of the ward and said calmly. Bronsky sat up slowly, "I failed again. However, we know where he is now. Soldier, now is not the time to be decadent. Pick up your weapons and prepare to fight." General Ross shouted. Bronsky clenched his fist tightly. He had confidently fought against Hulk before, but he was still knocked to the ground in 3 moves and 2 moves. How could he, who was so arrogant, endure this? He quickly got dressed and stared at General Ross. "General, Colonel Bronsky is reporting to you." "Very good, get ready to board the plane. We must catch him this time." General Ross smiled with satisfaction. In the laboratory, Banner was tied to the table by Dr. Lan. "Listen Banner, we need to wake up Hulk first so that the gamma-ray cells in your body reach the body's critical value, and then inject you with the inhibitory serum. If nothing unexpected happens, you can truly become a human again." Dr. Lan took a long breath. "Get ready, I'm going to use electric shock to wake up Hulk now." "Come on Doc, I can handle this." Banner awaits his fate. The experiment begins. With the electric shocks, the Hulk in Banner's body woke up. Banner's body began to expand, and even the powerful restraints on his hands almost burst. Banner wailed loudly, and those restraints were about to be broken free. Dr. Lan noticed that the gamma reaction in Banner's body had reached a critical value, and he immediately shouted to Betty, "Inject the serum now." Betty was injected with a suppressive serum without hesitation. With the injection of serum, Banner's body began to shrink again. Although the veins were clearly visible, he had obviously begun to transform back into a human being. The two looked at each other and smiled, feeling excited. Bruce Banner, the poor man, finally regained his human body. The experiment was successful. Dr. Lan was smiling and asking Banner how he felt when suddenly, there was a soft sound from behind the 3 of them. A tranquilizer bomb hit Banner's vest with perfect accuracy. He immediately felt weak and his body went limp, and Betty hugged him immediately. "They found us!" Betty shouted. Dr. Lan panicked, and before he could react, he was knocked down by a gun butt. The military people have already rushed in. General Ross slowly walked out of the crowd and glanced at the sleepy Banner with satisfaction. "Take him back to the base." He didn't realize that his right-hand man, Bronsky, did not follow the returning plane, but went straight to Dr. Lan. Chapter 30. The main target of the military was Banner, so they simply left Dr. Lan aside and left with Banner and Betty. Definitely, General Ross left a few soldiers behind, intending to deal with Banner first. "Take Dr. Lan back again." Dr. Lan was wiping the nosebleed in embarrassment, cursing about his bad luck, when a figure appeared in front of him. "Hey, you've already captured the people, what else do you want?" Dr. Lan said, dissatisfied. But the figure said calmly, "Since you can turn Banner from a monster into a human, is there any way you can turn him into a monster again?" When talking about technology, Dr. Lan immediately became excited. "Theoretically it is possible, but Hulk is basically in a complete sleep state now. Unless Banner falls into a situation of life and death, he is likely to reappear." The man showed a smile. "Then, can others be as powerful as him?" Dr. Lan shook his head repeatedly. "God, are you crazy? If you want to be as powerful as Hulk, you have to inject his blood. No one knows what will happen after injecting the blood. Maybe it will be blown into a pulp." The man grabbed Dr. Lan by the collar and shouted, "Inject me with his blood. Otherwise I will kill you." Dr. Lan was so frightened that he shivered. "God, do you know what you are doing?" Bronsky said with a ferocious smile, "I don't care, I will give anything for power." Facing the gun, Dr. Lan had no choice but to do as he was told. As Banner's blood poured into Bronsky's body, he let out huge amounts of screams. While screaming, his body began to expand rapidly. Bang 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 bang, the restraint device was torn open by Bronsky, something even Hulk couldn't do. Dr. Lan backed away in horror. He watched helplessly as a monster appeared in front of him. Now Bronsky has basically lost his human appearance. He is nearly 2.5 meters tall, his powerful muscles are terrifying, and his spine is bulging high, making him look like a tyrannosaurus. Bronsky stood up and walked slowly towards Dr. Lan. Dr. Lan yelled crazily, "Hey, don't kill me, I helped you." However, Bronsky seemed to have lost his mind at this moment. He slapped Dr. Lan away with a hard slap, and then jumped out of his laboratory without knowing whether he was alive or dead. "Kill, kill. Hulk." There was chaos in Bronsky's mind now, and only this thought was swirling around. He rushed out of the laboratory, wanting to follow this idea and find the enemy named Hulk. The few soldiers who stayed behind only heard a loud noise. Then, a black shadow fell from the sky and smashed their heads into pieces like watermelons. Now Bronsky only has violence and killing in his heart, as well as the desire to fight Hulk. Hulk! Bronsky, no, it's time to call him an abomination. He roared madly and jumped directly into the street. At the moment is the time when there are the most people at night, with people coming and going and a lot of traffic. The noisy car horns made Abomination a little irritated. He grabbed a car next to him and threw it at the crowd like throwing stones. For a moment, the whole street exploded. When people saw the ferocious-looking Abomination, they fled in all directions. However, this cry made Abomination even more upset. He roared and threw the car around. The street that was just bustling was instantly surrounded by a sea of fire, and the screams were endless. Hulk! Kill! Kill! He howled indistinctly while shooting at people. The other soldiers who stayed behind also reacted and immediately took out heavy weapons and opened fire on Abomination. The rockets drew an arc, roaring towards Abomination. However, a scene that shocked everyone happened. I saw Abomination grabbing the rocket in flight and crushing it into a ball of dregs like a bubble. The explosion had no effect on him at all. After receiving the attack, Abomination became even more angry. He jumped up and rushed in front of the soldiers. With a wave of his hand, the remaining limbs flew everywhere. General Ross and others who were flying to the base quickly received the information. At the moment, Banner also woke up. They looked at the footage taken by the satellite and saw that the whole street was gleaming with fire, filled with dead bodies and wailing people, while Abomination was howling crazily among the remains and debris. General Ross was stunned for a moment, and then asked sharply about Bronsky's whereabouts. If he guessed correctly, the monster wreaking havoc underneath is probably the Speedy. After receiving the news that Bronski was missing, General Ross' face turned black. Faced with this situation, Banner was silent for a moment and said, "General, let me transform into Hulk and go down to subdue this guy." General Ross was stunned and looked at Banner in disbelief. Betty hugged Banner's hand. "No, you have been injected with the serum and cannot transform. Now, I'm the only one who can stop that guy." Banner chuckled and turned to look at General Ross. General Ross looked at Banner and was silent for a moment. "Okay, prepare to land." "No, I'm going to jump from the sky," Banner said solemnly. The rear door of the plane slowly opened. "Banner, no, you are not sure whether you can transform again," Betty shouted. Banner touched his girlfriend's cheek. "I have to go, I can't let Bronski continue to be so disruptive." He turned around and jumped out of the plane without any hesitation. The people who were running away only saw a figure falling from the sky. This figure was buried deep in the ground, creating a big hole. Then, a giant green hand punched the gravel above his head, and he jumped out of the pit. The green skin and strong muscles show the unparalleled strength of this beast. Hulk! Hulk, who had successfully transformed, roared at the abomination across the street. "Kill, kill Hulk!" The abomination on the opposite side also discovered Hulk. He roared and ran like a giant mountain. Hulk also started to move. Two giant mountains collided instantly. "Queen," the king bug in Brooklyn observed something interesting. The insect queen reported to Kerrigan through the psychic network. Something interesting." Kerrigan, who was tasting delicious food with Jane, was stunned for a moment, and then switched to the perspective of the king insect. From the perspective of the king insect, Kerrigan found that the city below was shining brightly, as if it was on fire, and two individuals with extremely majestic vital signs were violently colliding. This made Kerrigan a little surprised. Overlord insects usually float in the air close to 10,000 meters. They can perceive such powerful vital signs from such a long distance. I have to say that the two individuals below are a bit unusual. Ah! She calmed down and used her psychic powers to enhance her vision. Hulk and Abomination? What a pity! I really wanted to go see the show live, but if I show up at this time, I'm afraid the military will be more afraid of me. Forget it, don't care about it. Kerrigan did not stop sharing the vision. She really wanted the Hulk's genes, but there would be a chance to get it in the future. She was not in a hurry and just treated it as a good show now. At the moment, General Ross's face on the plane became even more gloomy. Because, Hulk is not a hateful opponent at all, he was suppressed severely. Chapter 31. Hulk's battle with Abomination was at a disadvantage from the beginning. Hulk lost 100% of his power to 50% due to the previous serum. To say the least, it can be considered a compliment to Hulk. As for Abomination, it has just been integrated into Hulk's blood. Even if it has not fully digested the power brought by the blood, after this happy killing, the super soldier serum in its body is completely compatible with Hulk's blood, and its strength and condition are even better. Reached the top. Kill. Hatred roared angrily, but his huge body did not affect his agility at all. He bent down to avoid Hulk's heavy punch, and hit Hulk's waist with a big slap like a cattail fan, causing a sharp pain in half of Hulk's body. It flew backwards with a loud noise and hit the building next to it, smashing it to pieces. Although they are both powerful monsters, Hulk's fighting skills in the face of hatred are as ridiculous as those of a child. It's no wonder that Bruce Banner was a scientist before. Even if he had some fitness hobbies, compared with his hatred of being a professional soldier, his combat skills and experience were completely different. Hulk relied purely on strength to win. In the past, Hulk killed everyone purely based on strength and bully people, but when faced with an Abomination who was as powerful as him and had outstanding fighting skills, he was defeated until he flew up. In the hotel, Jane looked at Kerrigan, who was happily eating melon, and smiled. "Queen, did you see anything interesting again? It's a good show, you should watch it too." Kerrigan wouldn't mind Jane watching this kind of show. She pointed and the scene in her eyes was projected onto the TV in front of her. This is also Kerrigan's ability after her psychic powers are upgraded to level 5. Whenever she wants, she can use psychic powers to project the memories in her mind onto a carrier. Now Kerrigan, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a humanoid satellite. The two of them were eating and watching. Although Jane didn't like fighting, she was still quite excited to see such a physical fight. Hatred was so ugly that she immediately regarded him as a villain. Whenever Hulk attacks Abomination, she cheers loudly, and when Abomination slaps Hulk away, she looks worried. Kerrigan, a melon eater, is also a little helpless. Although it is not a big deal to watch the excitement, your distinction between good and evil based on appearance is too one-sided. Forget it, let's not talk about her now. When she meets the god with the elk helmet, she will know that a handsome guy is not necessarily a positive character. Although she initially viewed Jane as a role player and a fun-loving character, after getting along with her for a while, Kerrigan also thought about training Jane well to serve as her maid in the future and join the Avengers as an ambassador for the Zerg. The universe in the future will never be peaceful, and the birth of Avengers is inevitable. It doesn't hurt that the Zerg have an ambassador among them. Understanding the dangers of people's hearts is also the only way to grow. As for Kerrigan, she has no interest in joining the Avengers, saving the world or anything like that. What does this have to do with her being the queen of the Zerg? At most, when the Avengers pay a certain price, lending a helping hand can be regarded as a gift. Kerrigan and Jane were enjoying their meal, but General Ross on the other side was really worried. Hulk was suppressed by hatred and beaten violently. The surrounding buildings were damaged, and there were people running away and cars thrown by the two monsters everywhere. Speaking of General Ross, he became angry. After Hulk was at a disadvantage, he split a car in half and used it as a fist to fight with Abomination. Abomination became more energetic. After kicking him away, Hulk threw the car as a weapon and smashed it. The scene was huge, but it was just two brats fighting. The problem is that these two little brats are absolute monsters. General, the White Palace is calling. General, the Pentagon is calling. General, Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. is asking us what the hell is going on. The deputy clutched the satellite phone and looked anxious. General Ross grabbed his hair and almost collapsed. This is Brooklyn, just one step away from New York. If this continues, no one can save his skin. However, his baby daughter Betty Ross gave him a fatal blow. Dad, help Banner, he can't hold it anymore. Your father and I are in trouble now. Are you still thinking about that BD? General Ross was furious. Shut up, I'm thinking of a solution. Betty was shocked and didn't dare to say anything more. General Ross thought about it and finally answered Nick Fury's call first. The White Palace is useless. The military is likely to use missiles to clear the ground. Then General Ross will definitely have to take the blame and resign. The only thing left to see is whether S.H.I.E.L.D. is reliable. Director Nick Fury, I have a problem here. Do you have any super ability combat power to support you? For the sake of working for America, please help me. General Ross's voice was a little humble. Although he was a proud and arrogant person, he was asking for help now, so there was nothing wrong with his lower attitude. Nick Fury couldn't believe his ears. Is this the same Thaddeus E. Ross who always looks at people through his nostrils? However, when the difficulties at General Ross's scene were explained clearly, Nick Fury couldn't help but have a headache. Two monsters were fighting in the downtown area, and it was useless for S.H.I.E.L.D. to take action. The Avengers' plan is still in Fury's mind. Tony Stark is furious when he sees Fury now. Where can they find super combat power? Phil Coulson frowned and said, how about talking to Tony, after all, he is Iron Man now. Nick Fury sighed, contact him first. In fact, Tony already knew it. Brooklyn was not far from his home. Tony was just about to put on his armor when he was stopped by Ethan. Tony, you better not put on the suit just yet. Ethan, the city is being destroyed, I have to go. Ethan shook his head, although your symptoms of palladium poisoning have been greatly reduced after practicing psionic power, until this problem is completely solved, don't use the armor if you can. Can? Tony was speechless for a moment. Ethan said solemnly, we can ask His Majesty for help. Can it be done? Tony hesitated. Try it. You also know that if you pay a price that satisfies His Majesty, she is willing to take action. The previous protective umbrella. Before Ethan finished speaking, Tony immediately nodded in agreement. Although both the military and SHIELD covered up the destruction of Umbrella, Tony also had his own connections in the military, so he naturally knew everything about it. At this time, Nick Fury also contacted Tony and asked him to take action. Tony brushed it off in a few words and planned to contact a friend of his in the military to find out what was going on. General Ross, who was anxiously waiting for news, received another call. This time, it was Tony Stark calling. Old friend, I heard that something big happened in Brooklyn. The people at Black Braised Egg were hesitant and just said it was the military's trouble. You are an insider. Can you tell me? Tony Stark gets right to the point. General Ross was speechless. In fact, he has always been on good terms with the Stark family, so he has a good relationship with Tony, but he didn't expect that his begging would come to Tony's head. Although it was a good thing, the situation was too corrupt to end. General Ross took a deep breath and spoke eloquently. Chapter 32. Kerrigan's phone rang. She answered the phone and heard a deep male voice. Your Majesty, I am General Ross from the military. I have something to ask for your assistance. Kerrigan raised her eyebrows. Did you ask me for help? General Ross, you know my way of doing things. Definitely, Your Majesty. General Ross's heart is bleeding, and he is afraid that there will be a wave of blood this time. Well, after my new umbrella enters the market, it will need the full assistance of the military. Definitely, as before, the umbrella can develop some projects specially for the military. Kerrigan resorted to the old trick, sweet dates and sticks. S.H.I.E.L.D sent scientific research talents, and the military became a new protective umbrella. Kerrigan was very satisfied with this deal. General Ross smiled bitterly, we agree to all your conditions. We just ask that you help us settle this matter as soon as possible. Kerrigan hung up the phone and prepared to leave. Jane looked a little nervous. Queen, do you really want to go to the war? Kerrigan laughed dumbly, joining the war? No, Jane, it's just that my hands are itchy and I want to stretch my muscles. I can crush those two big guys to death with one finger. This isn't Kerrigan's boasting. She is much stronger now than before. As long as the Ancient One does not use the Time Gem, suppressing the Ancient One is no problem. Although only level 5 psychic powers can be used, it depends on who is using it. Kerrigan was about to leave after saying that. She knelt down on her knees and said firmly, Queen, Jane wants to witness your power with her own eyes. Kerrigan narrowed her eyes. Okay, let's go to the insect nest. General Ross on the plane gritted his teeth and agreed to Kerrigan's series of conditions. After hanging up the phone, he breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Betty, who looked worried. Don't worry Betty, reinforcements will be arriving soon. Everyone was delighted. What reinforcements are you talking about? General Ross was silent for a moment. You will find out later. Remember to record the battle data. After leaving these words, he stopped talking. General Ross was also a little curious about how the Zerg Queen would take action. Send an army? Unlike this kind of individual fighting, and it was still in a busy area, it was not like her character to send a large army. Discussions about Kerrigan have been ongoing within the military these days. The conclusion is that this is a very cunning opponent. But very disciplined. Therefore, although the military is very interested in the Zerg, it does not want to cause trouble. If it leads to a war between the two races, no one wants to see it. General, an unknown giant flight object has been detected approaching. God, why is this flight so fast? The soldier guarding the monitor shouted. General Ross was stunned and quickly came over to take a look. In the sky, a huge amount of black shadow was flying in the sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and it would arrive over the battlefield in just a few minutes. Is it that weird creature again? But this weird creature looks twice as big as the one I saw before. General Ross looked shocked. And inside the giant creature in his mouth, Kerrigan was sitting on her throne, gracefully shaking her wine glass, while Jane was looking around curiously. Your Majesty, I didn't expect there to be such a huge creature in the insect nest. Big? You'll see bigger ones later. Kerrigan chuckled. The Zerg, a command ship like Leviathan, has not yet been developed, so she is currently riding a king insect, codenamed Awaken. Definitely, as the Queen's car, Awaken is twice as big as other king bugs, and the interior is carefully decorated, making it a veritable luxury car. Not only is there an elite Zerg army inside, but there are also many entertainment facilities. It is even electrified and equipped with many household appliances. It's just that Awaken has been hiding under the insect nest and hasn't been used yet. Your Majesty, we are about to arrive at our destination. The insect queen whispered. Kerrigan snapped her fingers. A hole appeared in the center of the hall, and strong winds poured in from the hole, but Kerrigan's eyes did not waver at all. Jane, stay well on Awaken. I'll be right back. Kerrigan put down her wine glass, stood in front of the cave entrance, raised her hand to Jiang, and jumped down. The cave entrance then closed. Drink. Hulk punched him hard, sending Abomination flying backwards. At the moment, because he continued to fight, he got rid of the powerlessness caused by the serum and reached his peak state. Abomination was not to be outdone. The two monsters became more and more excited as they fought, and huge amounts of noise resounded throughout the city. But the people around him were really miserable. The two monsters are on top, and Banner can no longer control Hulk. General Ross on the plane was anxious, looking at the Zerg army that might have arrived, but why was there no movement when it stopped in mid-air? The adjutant suddenly shouted, "General, a high-energy reaction has been detected. It seems that something is flying rapidly." Damn, it came out of nowhere again. General Ross cursed. It seems like it jumped out of that giant thing in the sky. What? General Ross rushed over to check. However, that thing was so fast that it escaped the satellite's monitoring range in just an instant. Boom! Jenna screamed and hurriedly squatted down with her little daughter in her arms. She was so distraught now that she didn't know what to do. I took my daughter for a walk after get off work, and it was really unlucky to encounter this kind of monster wreaking havoc in the city. In order to avoid disaster, she took her daughter and hid in a clothing store. Seeing the two monsters fighting fiercely, and the surrounding buildings and vehicles being smashed into a mess, Jenna knew that it was no longer safe here, so she wanted to evacuate. Picking up her shivering daughter, Jenna gritted her teeth and walked out of the clothing store door, running towards the other side of the street. Boom! Just then, Abomination smashes another car into Hulk. Hulk slapped the car away, jumped up, and jumped towards the Abomination. The car spun in the air and then hit Jenna and her daughter, who were running away in a panic with great force. No! Jenna opened her eyes wide and watched the car flying closer and closer. She can only close her eyes and wait for death. The expected pain did not come. Jenna slowly opened her eyes and found a tall lady standing in front of her. The car seemed to be immobilized by some force and could not move forward in front of the lady. "Are you okay?" The lady turned around and asked with a smile. She had a peaceful face and a beauty that Jenna had never seen before in her life. There was an unparalleled affinity on her face, but also a hint of majesty, like a loving king speaking to her subjects. Thank you, who are you?" Jenna held her daughter and said tremblingly. The daughter in her arms was not afraid of the woman in front of her, and even waved to her with a smile. Kerrigan raised the corners of her mouth slightly and did not answer. "You guys, please stay back, it's not very safe here." Jenna quickly hugged her daughter and moved away. Her daughter seemed to like Kerrigan quite a bit and started crying as soon as she got away. Jenna quickly comforted her, but her eyes were fixed on Kerrigan, who was walking toward the center of the battlefield. Chapter 33. "General, there is a figure walking towards Hulk and Brinsky," said the adjutant who had been staring at the battlefield. General Ross looked over immediately and saw a woman walking calmly on the battlefield of flames. She walked lightly, ignoring the debris and cars flying around her. It's like taking a walk in your own garden. Those messy flying objects became quiet as soon as they approached the woman, and then gently fell to the ground under the influence of some kind of force. General Ross's eyes widened. "What power is this?" Betty also came over. "This is..." Her pupil shrank, and the ability displayed by this woman completely broke her more than 10 years of knowledge. "This lady is so charming." As soon as a soldier opened his mouth, everyone around him stared at him in surprise. He quickly shut up and hid aside. In the S.H.I.E.L.D. office, Nick Fury and Phil Coulson were also observing the battle. What a terrifying control! Extraordinary power is what S.H.I.E.L.D. has been studying. But having power doesn't mean you can control it. Just like the strength of adults is generally around 150 kilograms, but how many people can really exert the strength of 150 kilograms? Kerrigan came closer. She finally caught the attention of Hulk and Abomination, and the two monsters stopped at the same time and looked at Kerrigan. Kerrigan waved her hand nonchalantly. "Go on, I'm here to watch the show." A chair flew out of the building and looked quite elegant. Kerrigan sat down gracefully, like a king overlooking the fighting gladiators. This gesture instantly made Hate and Hulk furious. Abomination roared and threw 3 cars one after another. The car roared and hit Kerrigan in the face. "Ah!" Betty turned around, unable to bear to look any further. General Ross's face became increasingly gloomy. As soon as the 3 cars flew over Kerrigan's head, they were stabilized by some kind of force, then quietly returned to the parking space and stopped steadily. Seeing that the long-range attack was ineffective, Abomination jumped up high and struck Kerrigan with a heavy punch that made a sound of breaking through the air. "How rude!" Kerrigan said calmly. "Roll." With just a low shout, the hatred in the air flew out and hit the wall. Hulk also attacked. He used the manhole cover as a discus and hit Kerrigan on the head. However, Kerrigan remained motionless, her eyes only narrowed slightly, and the manhole cover flew back, smashing Hulk into the wall. For a moment, the entire battlefield fell silent, with only the crackling sound of burning vehicles. Betty on the plane saw that the surroundings were very quiet, and turned around to look at the monitor. Looking at Kerrigan sitting elegantly in the center of the battlefield, Betty asked tremblingly, "Who is she?" No one gave her an answer. After a long time, General Ross said slowly and in a low voice, "Queen of the Zerg, Kerrigan. In the end, it's the Hulk and the Abomination, rough-skinned and thick flesh." The two monsters crawled out from the debris of the building, looked at each other, then jumped up together and attacked Kerrigan. "How disobedient!" Kerrigan said coldly. The vehicle parked safely behind him rose up without any wind and faced the two monsters in the air like cannonballs. Huge amounts of pain instantly surrounded them, and before they even landed, they were directly buried by the vehicle. "Jesus! How strong is she?" The same sigh appeared on the plane and in S.H.I.E.L.D's office. At the moment, General Ross and Nick Fury, two people of different skin colors, one white and one black, had surprisingly consistent faces. Hulk and Abomination, two lawless monsters, didn't even have the ability to get close to her. Less than a minute after the battle started, the two guys who had caused huge damage to the city were suppressed and unable to fight back. And Kerrigan was sitting on the battlefield, not moving. "This is a king showing his majesty." Phil Coulson frowned, "Sir, I'm afraid only weapons of mass destruction can threaten her." Nick Fury shook his head, "It's difficult. You saw how fast she left the flight object just now. I'm afraid she left the attack range before the attack arrived." Phil Coulson nodded solemnly. "This kind of enemy is the most terrifying. Not only can he run fast, he also has powerful supernatural abilities, and he also has an army. What a ghost." Nick Fury sighed, "It seems that we can only make friends and never become enemies. Take down the hidden stakes we are going to assign to the new Umbrella personnel. If she gets PD off, the world will really be in trouble." Phil Coulson received the order and left immediately. Nick Fury looked at Kerrigan on the monitor, and his desire for high-end combat power became even more urgent. Roar! Abomination and Hulk struggled to climb out of the pile of cars. This time, the two of them no longer dared to underestimate the extremely dignified woman sitting in front of them. Abomination and Hulk looked at each other again. Abomination then began throwing cars at Kerrigan, trying to attract her attention. Hulk began to run around the sideline, ready to take action depending on the situation. Kerrigan raised her eyes slightly, "I thought you were so strong. Is this all you have?" With just a flick of her hand, the car that was coming flew back, trapping Abomination tightly. The severe pain made Abomination scream, and the surrounding cars trapped it like a cage. Kerrigan turned her fingers into palms, then clenched them into fists. Abomination, who had been hit hard one after another, could no longer maintain his figure, and was squeezed into a ball by a bunch of cars. He became dizzy and transformed back into Bronski. Kerrigan ignored him and raised her eyes to glare at Hulk, who jumped over to prepare for a sneak attack. Hulk opened his mouth wide, green blood sprayed everywhere, and was knocked away again with a whistling sound. A stream of blood flew towards Kerrigan. Kerrigan frowned in disgust, and his surroundings instantly lit up, forming a blue light shield that protected the surrounding body and blocked the blood. "Dirty blood!" Kerrigan stood up gracefully. "It's so boring," she said lightly, and the car that trapped Bronski dispersed again, and Bronski was psychically thrown at Kerrigan's feet like a dead dog. Hulk struggled to climb out of the mound and looked at Kerrigan's figure with a look of shock. Seeing Kerrigan looking at him again, Hulk jumped up and ran away without saying a word. Too strong. Hulk, who has always been lawless, was really scared. "Want to run?" Kerrigan sneered and pointed in the distance. Hulk, who had just taken off, was trapped by the huge force and pulled back by his psychic powers. Julie thrust Hulk directly into the soil, leaving only his head. Kerrigan waved her hand, and her spiritual energy turned into a giant palm and shot left and right at Hulk's head. Ba bang bang! With just 3 palms, Hulk's face swelled up as if he had been blown away, and his originally big face turned into a pig's head. Betty screamed on the plane, and General Ross covered her mouth, "Don't yell, and don't make His Majesty angry. If Banner dares to attack her, he'll be fine if he doesn't die." At the moment, General Ross also used the honorific title for Kerrigan. He looked back at the flight attendant, "Get ready to land, please be polite." Everyone murmured in agreement. Nick Fury turned off the monitor and there was nothing to see. He picked up the phone, "Have you found the captain?" "It has been found and we are transporting him back." After hanging up the phone, Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. The Zerg intelligence is still accurate. Jane looked at Kerrigan, who was showing off her power in the city, with longing in her eyes. She couldn't help but want to jump down and announce to everyone that this was her king, the unique king. However, before Kerrigan left, she had promised that she would not be allowed to leave Awaken, so she had no choice but to give up. Hulk, who was violently beaten by the giant psychic hand, finally couldn't hold on any longer and turned back into Banner. He dropped his head and fainted. Kerrigan didn't look at him, but looked up at the sky. A transport plane is landing slowly. General Ross strode out of the transport plane and bowed upright. "Thank you for your support, Your Majesty." Chapter 34. Find me some interesting opponents next time. This kind is too weak. You paid so much for this little thing. Kerrigan raised her head and said calmly. General Ross was speechless. Is this still weak? You are too strong. He sat there the entire time without moving his hands, holding Hulk and Abomination in place. He laughed along with her, "Her Majesty the Queen's power is something I could not foresee." Kerrigan said calmly. General Ross was a little embarrassed. He rubbed his hands and said, "Your Majesty, now that you have Banner and Bronski under control, can you, hee. Here you are." Kerrigan pointed at Hulk, "Definitely, take this guy away." General Ross looked at Bronski in a pool of blood carefully, sweating profusely, "Your Majesty, didn't we agree before? I just promised to help you calm down the incident and capture this big guy, but I didn't say that I would also hand over the other guy to you." Kerrigan said coldly. General Ross' scalp was numb. He did not mention this when negotiating terms with Kerrigan before. He was distraught, but his baby daughter Betty couldn't care less. Betty rushed directly to Banner who was buried in the cement floor, calling Banner's name eagerly. Kerrigan glanced at her with a frown, but didn't care. General Ross panicked, "This girl is so disobedient." He humbly approached Kerrigan and said, "Your Majesty, Betty is young and ignorant. Please don't take offense." "Don't worry, I'm not that interested in getting angry with children." Kerrigan said calmly. "I want to take that person away. Do you have any objections?" General Ross's face twitched. If Kerrigan was allowed to take away Bronski, his skin would really not be saved. But now, who dares to PK her in front of her? There really is. Upon hearing this, Betty thought Kerrigan was taking Banner away, and immediately protected Banner. "No, you can't take Banner away." Kerrigan's face turned cold, but he didn't bother to explain, "Do you think I am discussing with you?" General Ross quickly grabbed his daughter, Your Majesty, please spare Betty. She is just ignorant. I will take her back right away." Betty insisted, and the father and daughter struggled together, and the scene was very chaotic. General Ross's subordinates were helpless. Although they wanted to help, they had no courage to do anything when they saw Kerrigan. Kerrigan frowned and said, "Okay, don't act in front of me." She couldn't tell that General Ross was stalling for time. General Ross has been a soldier all his life. Although he is nearly 60 years old, ordinary young people are no match for him. Betty, a weak girl, has no right to fight with him. General Ross let go of Betty with a sneer and stood aside. Kerrigan glanced at Betty, who was disheveled but still looking at Kerrigan firmly. Kerrigan's eyes flashed with appreciation, "Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" "Don't be afraid, I'm not afraid of anything for Banner." Betty yelled. "Something interesting." The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to your boyfriend. The one I want to take away is the other one." Betty was stunned for a moment, "Really? Do I need to lie to you? What do you think, General Ross?" Betty was a little embarrassed. After a long time of fuss, they had no intention of taking Banner away. It was all her own fault. She thought about apologizing quietly, but didn't know how to say it. Kerrigan didn't care, "General Ross, if there are no problems, I will take this person away. By the way, don't forget our deal." "This. Your Majesty, you really can't take him away. General Ross gritted his teeth. Even if he offends Kerrigan, he must keep Blonsky. Seeing General Ross acting like this, Kerrigan frowned and said, "Hey." General Ross thought things were turning around, and just when he was about to say thanks, he saw Kerrigan stepping on Blonsky's chest. Blonsky felt like he was severely injured, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. Kerrigan moved her foot slightly, letting a few drops of blood smear on the heel of her shoe. "Oh, this is my favorite pair of shoes, why are they dirty?" Kerrigan raised her head and showed what seemed to be the most beautiful smile in the world, but her words made General Ross and others feel like they were in the cold. General Ross Adam's apple moved, "Everything depends on your wishes." "Then there's nothing more to say. See you next time." Kerrigan chuckled, and Blonsky floated up from the ground. With a twist of her fingers, the invisible power tied him into a rice dumpling. Kerrigan tapped her toes on the ground, then flew high into the sky with the rice dumpling and disappeared. Betty looked at the sky, feeling lost. But she immediately pounced on Banner, who was buried in the ground, and everyone hurriedly gathered around her. Kerrigan returned to Awaken, and Jane immediately pounced on him. "Your Majesty, you are really too strong." So. Kerrigan smiled and touched Jane's hair, then turned to the insect queen who was waiting for orders. This man was sent to Jerry and ordered Abathur to extract the genes from his body. "Don't kill him. This is very precious material." "As you command, Queen." The Queen carried Blonsky and left. Himalayas. Ancient One withdrew from meditation and frowned slightly. It feels like that His Majesty is stronger than before, and he didn't even reveal his true form. Just now, she watched the scene where Kerrigan made a strong move. Ancient One touched the pendant on his chest. "You really cannot be an enemy. Your Majesty will still need your help in the future." She sighed and meditated again. Snake Nest. Kendon Me looked at the video seriously. "Order the hidden stakes to lurk, and don't cause trouble. It's not the right time yet." "Yes." And above the 9 heavens, the Asgardian of Asgard, the legendary strong man with the eye of Heimdall who can see through all things, Heimdall, closed his eyes. He said solemnly, "God King, a powerful man has appeared in Mid-Aelgart. I saw it, keep watching." A majestic and old voice sounded in the air. "Promise." Kerrigan didn't know that his display of power had attracted the attention of many people. Definitely, she doesn't care either. She is currently busy processing various gene fragments sent by the military and SHIELD. She is also arranging for the upgrade of Zerg buildings. Obtained gamma-modified super soldier gene fragments, increasing integration to 19.3%. Kerrigan frowned, a little unhappy. This is the last 0.2% of progress, extracted from Blonsky. Captain America's gene fragment provides her with 0.2% integration. It seems that the complete super soldier's gene is just that, not much different from the gene fragment of Abomination, which is about to turn into a hybrid. Although Umbrella has many modified genes, only a few have the ability to increase integration, and most of them are useless. It's no wonder that if any mutated gene could increase integration, then she could just go to research institutes around the world and grab it. However, the special gene of the complete body can also provide twice as much progress as other special genes, which still makes her satisfied. Suddenly, she remembered a tribe. In the future, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have appeared, and there are mutants in this world. Kerrigan thought for a moment. "Just wait, they will deliver it to your door anyway." Kerrigan thought for a moment, and then issued an order to Abathur, who was busy, trying to transform the special gene of hatred again. After killing the insect, Kerrigan took away the sample and prepared to meditate to digest the strength brought by the increased integration. The phone suddenly rang. Kerrigan glanced over and saw Tony Stark. "Your Majesty, the development of new energy has initially yielded results. I would like to invite you to visit and inspect." Tony on the other end of the phone looked excited. During this time, he was not only busy cultivating psychic powers, but also devoted himself to developing new energy sources. The hard work paid off, and now that he had achieved some results, he naturally wanted to tell Kerrigan the good news as soon as possible. Although Kerrigan did not specify how long the new energy source would be needed, Tony was not a person who liked debt, and it was most important to complete the transaction as soon as possible. "Very good, I'll be there in a minute." Kerrigan hung up the phone with satisfaction and prepared to see Tony's results. Chapter 35. Nick Fury has been watching a video these days. Video of Kerrigan taking action. Extremely strong control, unknown long-range attack power, but almost no chance of getting close, and it can also release a shield. Damn it, the shield is only released to block the splashing blood. There is no defense at all. Nick Fury turned off the video and rubbed his eyebrows. Phil Coulson knocked on the door. Sir, he's awake. Nick Fury was stunned for a moment, then overjoyed. Okay, I'll be there right away. Your Majesty, please come this way. With a humble smile, Tony Stark led Kerrigan to his laboratory. He didn't even have the courage to look Kerrigan in the eyes right now. He also had the video of Kerrigan's battle. After discussing with Ethan and others for a long time, Tony decided. You should be honest and give in. You should cooperate and never provoke Kerrigan. With such a powerful super ability, even if she threw out all the mark armors in her inventory, they would still be useless in front of her. Tony led Kerrigan to a device. This is the medium-sized nuclear arc reactor I developed. It is built on the basis of the small arc reactor. It supplies stable energy, is very clean, and has no pollution. When it comes to research, Tony is a lot more relaxed. As a genius, he is definitely a little arrogant, although the energy provided cannot be said to be a lot, it is already an extremely excellent energy device. Kerrigan stepped forward and as soon as she touched the device, the heart of the swarm automatically activated. Discovered new energy device, medium-sized nuclear arc reactor, advantages, clean and pollution-free, stable energy supply. Disadvantages, the energy supply is low, it requires large-scale establishment to exert a powerful effect, and the cost is extremely high. Evaluation, it is tasteless to eat and a pity to discard. It is recommended to continue development. Kerrigan was stunned by this discovery. For so long, the heart of the swarm had never started automatically. But it's not a bad thing. Kerrigan remained calm and chuckled. Indeed, it looks beautiful, but the cost of this device is not low, and I think the supply needs to be deployed on a large area to be useful, right? Tony was stunned for a moment, then scratched his head in embarrassment. Well, I will improve this in the future. I didn't expect that Your Majesty also knows so much about energy, and you can see its flaws at a glance. Tony meant what he said. He just didn't finish talking about the shortcomings of the medium-sized arc reactor, just because he wanted to see if Kerrigan had a vision for technology. If Kerr happily takes the reactor and leaves, then it's definitely good, and the deal with the Zerg is over. If you don't know the goods yourself, what does it have to do with me? Moreover, this kind of reactor must be deployed on a large scale, so that he can know the location of the Zerg base and have a way to deal with it in the future. But Kerrigan has figured it out, so he has no choice but to admit defeat. Kerrigan raised a brow, and she immediately understood Tony's plan. She didn't get angry and said calmly, Tony, how long will it take to improve the reactor? Tony felt a little worried when he heard this. To be honest, although he had some thoughts of his own, he still tried his best to develop it, but he had no clue at all about the improvement of the reactor, and he was developing it while practicing, which was indeed a bit duplicative. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, for the time being, I can only do so much. Kerrigan pondered for a moment. Actually, I have a very useful piece of news for you. As soon as Kerrigan left, Tony hurriedly contacted Nick Fury. Nick Fury, I want to get back what my father left in SHIELD. Nick Fury was stunned. What? Wait, how do you know? Tony said impatiently, don't worry about how I know, now, send it to me immediately. Nick Fury was stunned for a moment, but he had no reason to reject Tony. After hanging up the phone, Fury shouted angrily, Misfuck. He retained the legacy left by Howard Stark and was prepared to provide it to Tony depending on the situation, and then asked Tony to join SHIELD. I'm a soft-spoken eater but a short-handed recipient. I helped your dad keep your things for so long. You don't appreciate it. Isn't it appropriate? But unexpectedly, before he could say anything, Tony already knew that he was holding something left by Howard. Fury was so angry that his teeth itched, and he swore that if he knew who had revealed the news, he would definitely give him a good look. Phil Coulson knocked on the door. Sir, Agent Romanoff is here. Invite her in. Jerry is dressed up today. He stood in front of the mirror, looked at his outfit again, and turned to ask his secretary. Natasha Romanoff, does this suit me? Secretary Natasha Romanoff, who has red hair and looks quite charming, smiled and said, You are dressed very solemnly. That's good. Jerry adjusted his glasses and looked down at his watch. let's go and pick someone up. He led Natasha Romanoff out of the office and all the way to the lobby. There are many people standing here. Some were wearing military uniforms, some were in suits, and some were researchers in white coats. These people gathered together in twos and threes, clearly distinguishable from each other. Jerry walked out of the hall without even looking at these people. Standing at the gate, Jerry licked his lips, waiting for his king to appear. Behind him, several soldiers cast disdainful glances at Jerry's back. This guy actually shamelessly surrendered to the Zerg. Keep your voice down so no one can hear you. That being said, this BD is really lucky. I heard that none of the former Umbrella researchers who worked with him survived. Yes, I have become the chairman of the new Umbrella, which is really enviable. Shut up. A deep male voice sounded, and several soldiers quickly shut up. The deputy approached the man and said, "General, Nick Fury just came in through the side door." General Ross looked in the direction he pointed and saw the familiar black braised eggs. The two looked at each other and nodded without talking. Although the chatter behind the scenes was quiet, Jerry still heard it. Jerry was also the first human to take the initiative to seek refuge, so Kerrigan would not treat him badly and arranged for the Insect Queen to teach him psychic powers. The current Jerry is not the helpless researcher he was before. The corner of Jerry's mouth raised slightly. These guys said they looked down on him, but weren't they actually envious to death? From a low-level researcher to the chairman of a powerful corporate umbrella with triple protection from the military, S.H.I.E.L.D, and Zerg, who wouldn't envy him? The mouth is too upright and the body is rubbish. Jerry smiled disdainfully. What's wrong with taking refuge in the Zerg? His Majesty is kind-hearted and treats him extremely favorably. Now he has extraordinary power, has extended his lifespan, and will have all the glory and wealth in his hands in the future. If it were for the previous protective umbrella, he would never be able to reach his current position in his lifetime. A limousine is approaching from a distance. Jerry was shocked, put away his thoughts, and bent down to salute. The car stopped. Jerry didn't even look up and shouted respectfully, "Jerry Joe, chairman of the new umbrella, welcomes Her Majesty the Queen." Chapter 36. Click. A crisp sound of gold and jade clashing came from the car door, and light steps seemed to step on people's hearts. Everyone's breathing tightened suddenly, and the air was filled with a vague aroma. They couldn't help but look at the shadow. The stunning figure came in a red dress, which attracted special attention. She put her hands behind her hands and raised her eyebrows, and all the heroes in the world bowed their waists. The fiery red dress, which looked like butterfly wings about to fly, was embroidered with bright golden lines, which dazzled everyone's eyes in the sunlight. On the fair and jade-colored face, the shadow cast by the thick eyelashes is like the faint ink stain on rice paper. Those pair of spiritual eyes are ethereal and gorgeous, as clear as water and as bright as morning stars. With a single swipe, people suddenly lose their soul and become fascinated by it. The hair flows down like a dark spring water, and the fluttering hair stirs up layers of ink-colored light. Her body is more noble than the peony, more proud than the snowy plum, and more elegant than the ink chrysanthemum, which makes thousands of pink and white lose their color. Among all living beings, there are hundreds of beauties, but she is the only one who is uniquely beautiful. Shock, amazement, wonder, disbelief, all kinds of eyes were focused on that woman. At this moment, it seemed that the air was stagnant. The woman's red lips parted slightly. "Well done, Jerry. It is my honor to serve you." Jerry looked excited and said, "Her Majesty, please come inside and take a closer look." With that said, he diligently opened the way forward. Kerrigan raised her head and caught a glimpse of the woman dressed as a secretary next to Jerry. Her eyes moved slightly, but she didn't speak. She walked lightly on the prepared red carpet. At the same time, it also touched the hearts of countless people present. "I finally understand why that guy defected to the Zerg. I can make a fortune, and I have such a stunning boss. It's me, so I'll join." The meeting was private and there were no reporters. Kerrigan also saw Nick Fury and General Ross. The two men bowed slightly. "Your Majesty." Kerrigan replied lightly and ignored them. Jerry laughed with him and led Kerrigan to visit the facilities and equipment of the new umbrella and meet with the employees. Many of these employees were mobilized by S.H.I.E.L.D, and many were hired by Jerry with huge sums of money. Most of these people didn't know Kerrigan's identity, but when they saw the chairman being so groveling, they knew it was a senior official who was here, and they all said hello. After the visit, Kerrigan, Jerry, and others came to the conference room. Everyone else left, except General Ross, Nick Fury, Jerry's secretary. Looking at Jerry, who was a little worried, Kerrigan said, "Yes, you are very attentive." The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. Jerry's heart dropped into his stomach. He breathed a sigh of relief, and said seriously, "I will do my best and never let down His Majesty's trust." Kerrigan put away her smile and looked at Nick Fury, who had just sat down. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. dared to mix sand. Is it to see the wrath of the Zerg? General Ross looked at the black braised egg with wide eyes. "Good guy, are you trying to cause trouble, UBD?" Nick Fury was stunned, but said calmly, "Your Majesty, our cooperation is based on mutual trust. Please believe that we will not do this." "Haha Jerry, you are so lucky to have the famous S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, as your secretary." Although Kerrigan was smiling, her smile was charming, but everyone present felt cold in their hearts. Jerry looked at the secretary next to him in disbelief. Her face was tense and she no longer had a smile. "Your Majesty. Your Majesty, I really don't know anything. Natasha Romanoff has just joined the job not long ago, so I really don't know anything." Jerry hurriedly explained, and Kerrigan said coldly, "I don't mean to blame you. You can't fight her with your ability. Now, shut up." Jerry was so frightened that he didn't dare to speak anymore. Nick Fury's head is as big as a bucket. He didn't know why, but Kerrigan recognized Natasha Romanoff's identity immediately. "You know, Natasha Romanoff has been performing missions abroad before, so how did anyone know about it?" "There's a ghost inside." Nick Fury gritted his teeth, but still managed to smile. "Your Majesty, I can quibble with this. No, explain." He couldn't say this anymore. Being exposed as a spy in front of others, if the Zerg and humans really went to war, he would definitely be accused to death. Natasha Romanoff gritted her teeth. She was so close, maybe she could succeed. Just as she was about to attack, she found that her body was completely unable to move and seemed to be squeezed by a huge force. "If you don't want to die, just stay calm." Kerrigan glanced at her lightly, then looked at Nick Fury. "I need S.H.I.E.L.D. to give me an explanation, do you understand?" Just at this glance, Natasha Romanoff seemed to be frightened by something. She looked panicked and did not dare to speak anymore. Nick Fury's heart twitched, and he asked the lion to open his mouth again. He looked at General Ross beside him as if asking for help. However, General Ross seemed to find the decoration on the ceiling very interesting and was observing it carefully. "Ms. Falk." Nick Fury nodded helplessly. "No problem, Your Majesty." Kerrigan, who had killed another person, showed a satisfied smile. "Definitely, I know what you think. How about this? Agent Natasha Romanoff works by my side from now on." Nick Fury was stunned and then overjoyed. But he was afraid of being deceived and asked hesitantly, "Your Majesty, are you sure? You guys always want to mix sand with me. I might as well bring the sand with me to avoid causing any trouble. It won't look good on both sides. What do you think?" With a tap of Kerrigan's fingers, Natasha Romanoff immediately regained her mobility. "You will be my maid from now on. I will let you know what you should know, and what you shouldn't know, do you understand?" Kerrigan lifted Natasha Romanoff's chin and chuckled in her ear. After S.H.I.E.L.D. and the military personnel left, Jerry immediately knelt down and begged Kerrigan for punishment. Natasha Romanoff also left, and Fury wanted to be interviewed. Kerrigan shook her head. "Just do your job with peace of mind. Pay attention to your safety. This seat is not easy to sit in." Jerry nodded repeatedly. Kerrigan left with satisfaction. She had just made another deal with SHIELD. She also earned a free employee, which was pretty good. Definitely, she also incidentally agreed to the military's request to help develop a super soldier serum and deepen research on former Umbrella biological weapons such as Tyrant. There was no way. Although Banner was taken back by the military, they couldn't find anything out after a long time. Banner almost died after thinking about it. After much deliberation, they finally found the Zerg. The Tyrant's powerful combat power also made the military covetous. Kerrigan definitely agreed to everything. This was something that was beneficial to both parties, so she had no reason not to agree. As for keeping Natasha Romanoff, it's just that Kerrigan plans to develop another toy. When Kerrigan left, Jerry jumped up. check the identities of all employees. In the distant furry bear country, in a somewhat dilapidated apartment, the unshaven man picked up a cup of hot water and carefully handed it to the old man lying on the hospital bed. Ahem. The old man's anger was like a gossamer. He glanced at the TV, which was playing the speech of the famous Iron Man Tony Stark. The old man didn't know where the strength came from and grabbed the man's collar. These honors originally belonged to you, Ivan. Perhaps he was so angry that before he finished speaking, the old man dropped his head and passed away. Ivan hurriedly helped the old man up, only to find that he had died, and he felt extremely sad. He turned to look at the newspapers and posters posted on the wall, furious. Tony Stark. Chapter 37. Little did Tony Stark know that on the other side of the planet, someone hated him. At the moment, he was busy examining the large box sent by Shield. I really don't know what Dad left for me. Her Majesty the Queen said that the things inside will help my research, but I don't know if it is true. Why would Her Majesty know about this? Tony muttered to himself as he opened the box. Inside were some tapes and films, as well as some notebooks signed by Howard Stark. Dad's work notes? They can be used as a source of inspiration. Let's take a look at the film first. J.A.R.V.I.S. then began to play the contents of the film. Looking at the high-spirited Howard Stark on the screen, Tony's eyes flashed with sadness and nostalgia. Then, a passage from Howard Stark caught his attention. Tony, I have discovered an energy that is purer than a reactor and can discard the palladium element. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of technology in this world, I cannot realize my idea, but I believe that you can definitely implement it. This element is found and I love you forever, dear son. Tony was stunned for a moment and smiled. Damn Dad, you still want me to learn something after you've been dead for so long. Originally, the relationship between Tony and his father, Howard, was not good. Howard wanted his son to be a successful child and arranged for Tony to learn this and that when he was young, which annoyed Tony. But now seeing the backup plan left by his father, Tony was filled with emotion. Maybe my dad had foreseen that he would use the reactor to cause trouble and get into trouble with palladium poisoning. If he had not learned psionic powers, he would have been completely decadent due to palladium element poisoning. Now, with psionic powers, he is no longer afraid of the threat of palladium element. However, it is still necessary to explore new elements. Firstly, it can enhance the strength of the armor, and secondly, it can also complete the deal with Kerrigan. He immediately threw himself into the research with passion, and Ethan came to join him after receiving the news. Looking at the two busy grown men, little Pepper, who was about to have a serious discussion with Tony about the company's management, could only sigh helplessly. Throw this bunch of shit to me again. The military returned Banner to Kerrigan. There was no way, Banner didn't even know how much blood had been drawn. The military spent a long time studying it and came to the conclusion that this guy was the chosen one and could not be copied at all. They also learned from Dr. Blue how Bronsky transformed into an abomination, so they specially selected people for experiments. Then there is no more. 8 carefully selected elite soldiers were blown to pieces. General Ross was pointed at and scolded by the Army General, and he was fired from his position as director of the Super Soldier Program. If it wasn't for their help, the military wouldn't have sued Kerrigan and even handed over Banner on their own initiative. Abathur looked at Banner lying unconscious on the hospital bed and whispered, "Queen, this human was injected with a suppressive serum in order to suppress the mutated genes in his body, but he immediately forcibly transformed, causing irreversible consequences. Now, the genes in his body are chaotic, and if his will fluctuates even slightly, he will turn into that monster. According to my judgment, if he cannot control the other consciousness in his body, this human will eventually completely turn into the monster named Hulk." Kerrigan frowned slightly. Is there a solution? Yes, psychic energy can effectively control this trend, but... Abathur hesitated to speak. This man was not loyal to the Zerg, and there was absolutely no need to save him. Kerrigan pondered for a moment. This guy will not be loyal to us. Just collect more samples and conduct integrate experiments. But treat him better. He is the heart of the military. As commanded. After leaving the laboratory, Kerrigan returned to the hotel. The new maid, Natasha Romanoff had been waiting for a long time. As soon as Kerrigan entered the room, she noticed that the atmosphere in the room was a bit solemn. Jane stared at Natasha Romanoff sitting aside, while Natasha Romanoff sat upright and motionless. Seeing Kerrigan coming in, Jane jumped up. "Queen, you are here. Natasha Romanoff also stood up and said in a calm tone, "Your Majesty." As a multi-talented legendary S.H.I.E.L.D agent, Natasha Romanoff is very attentive. After talking to Nick Fury, she also knew what she wanted to do when she came to Kerrigan's side. Just follow Kerrigan's orders, there's no need to pass on the message. Kerrigan responded calmly, "Jane, I'm going to be traveling for a while. You and Natasha Romanoff will help me keep an eye on my new umbrella these days." Jane was stunned. "Queen, where are you going?" Natasha Romanoff's expression tightened. What kind of trouble does this mysterious His Majesty want to do? "Nothing, just going back to see an old friend." Kerrigan chuckled. After being out for so long, she really missed her days on Skull Island. Although Tony's medium-sized nuclear reactor was not perfect, Kerrigan still asked for the information and used whatever was available first. She happened to go back to Skull Island to arrange for the Zerg technology tree upgrade. Abathur has been researching a lot of new things recently. Many mutant Zerg were born in the new U-nest. However, due to resource constraints, Skull Island was still unable to produce these mutant Zerg, so Kerrigan decided to go back and develop some first. Time. The cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, let alone Kerrigan, who is cautious by nature. It is absolutely impossible to give up the Skull Island base camp. Seeing Kerrigan's determination, Jane licked her lips, "As you command, Queen." Kerrigan looked at Natasha Romanoff again, "Since you are working under me now, you must do your best, and the benefits will not be less, do you understand?" Natasha Romanoff hesitated for a moment and said in a deep voice, "Yes." "What did you say?" The Zerg Queen left the beautiful country. Nick Fury was stunned when he received the news and was a little curious. "Yes, but she said she would be back soon." As for where she was going, she didn't say clearly. She just said she was going back to see an old friend. Natasha Romanoff whispered. "Go back." Nick Fury pondered for a moment. "I know, let's do what she said first." The two broke contact and Fury sighed. He looked at the man sitting opposite and asked, "Steve, what do you think?" Steve put down the information in his hand. "For the time being, it seems that we are friends rather than enemies, and there is no obvious intention to attack. I'm afraid that His Majesty has other plans in mind." Nick Fury said worriedly. "When I was studying, I saw a famous saying, when soldiers come, the water will come and the earth will cover it up. Don't worry, if she really wants to be an enemy of mankind, I will never let her go." A bright smile spread across Steve's face. Fury responded calmly, but felt helpless in his heart. Steve Rogers has been out of touch with the times for too long. Will he really be the opponent of the Zerg? Fury was skeptical. But he didn't want to hit Captain America, but said something else in a deep voice. "Captain, something is not right inside S.H.I.E.L.D right now, so I have a new plan." Chapter 38. Kerrigan sat on Awaken's throne, looking at Skull Island getting closer and closer. A trace of nostalgia flashed in her eyes. "It seems like I haven't been back for almost a year." Awaken landed slowly, and a group of insect queens from Skull Island led the Zerg to surround him. They all possessed them. "Welcome the Queen." Kerrigan slowly walked out of Awaken, and her clothes began to change, turning into her original appearance. The bone wings spread out, and a head of red hair turned into countless nerve bundles. "It feels so good to be home. This form is the most comfortable." Kerrigan smiled slightly and looked at her subjects. "Thank you for your hard work." Sitting on a throne of dinosaur skulls, Kerrigan opened the heart of the swarm. Sarah Louise Kerrigan. Occupation, Blade Queen, Integration 19.3%, Unlocked Professional Skill, Parasitism. The host currently has 3 additional professional skill points and you can change professional skills in a safe area. Speed, Strength, Wisdom. Psychic Power Level, 5. More levels will be unlocked with the number of dependents. Psychic abilities unlocked: Psychic Communication, Psychic Flight, Psychic Storm, Psychic Shield, Psychic Blade, Psychic Transformation. Current Familia, Zerg, number 164,783, Ability, Dominate Charm, Gene Analysis, Gene Sublimation. Unlocked Buildings, Hatchery, Lair, Split Pool, Evolution Room, Hydralisk Cave, Tunnel Network, Wyvern Tower. Collecting more special genes unlocks other buildings. Kerrigan frowned slightly. She seemed to have never noticed this professional skill point. It seemed that because Heart of the Swarm always played notifications before, she simply turned off the notifications. Kerrigan clicked on her professional skill tree and nodded. Sure enough, it was the skill tree from when I played the game before. At first glance, it's all familiar ability. Now unlockable are Kinetic Blast, Heroic Endurance, Shattering Binding, Chain Reaction as well as Springtail Regeneration and Host Improvements. Half of them are active skills and the rest are passive skills. Kerrigan thought for a while, then activated all active skills to familiarize herself with them. Anyway, now that I am in the insect nest, it is a safe zone, so I can do whatever I want. Try kinetic blasting first. Kerrigan glanced at the mountains in the distance, her thoughts moved, and a blue light wave condensed in her hand. She shouted, "Kinetic blast!" The light wave followed Kerrigan's thoughts and roared towards the mountains in the distance. Boom! In an instant, a light lit up on the top of the mountain. Then, a blazing heat wave burst out from the light, accompanied by an earth-shaking loud noise, and thick smoke billowed into the sky like an overwhelming sandstorm. Along with the scarlet flames, it bloomed coquettishly, like a gorgeous flower from the other side, moving. It's soul-stirring but extremely dangerous. Kerrigan was in disbelief. Why is it so powerful? Several insect queens rushed over. "Queen, there may be a foreign enemy attack, please evacuate immediately." "It's okay, I'm just experimenting with my new ability." Kerrigan coughed slightly, and several insect queens were stunned for a moment, then cheered loudly, "Congratulations, Queen. Well, you go down first." Kerrigan waved her hand and told the queens to leave. She felt the spiritual energy in her body and frowned slightly. "No wonder there is such a big movement, I have injected too much spiritual energy. You still need to practice more." Kerrigan's thoughts moved and her body slowly floated up. "It's better to go to sea to test your skills, don't accidentally blow up Skull Island." Kerrigan's temporary departure did not cause any waves. Many people were relieved that she was leaving, many people. Jerry has been very prosperous recently. Both the military and S.H.I.E.L.D. have welcomed him with smiles. The research on the new umbrella is also going smoothly. The first drug without side effects that can enhance physical fitness is about to begin clinical trials. But if there is anyone to blame, it can only be Natasha Romanoff, who sits in charge of the new umbrella with Jane. He couldn't afford to mess with Jane. He was truly the first human being to follow His Majesty. He was deeply loved and had extraordinary strength. Moreover, Jane doesn't care about being famous or pursuing wealth, so she supports the company's affairs as long as it is conducive to development. Natasha Romanoff is different. His own former secretary has been causing trouble for him since he started taking up the new umbrella. She even demands that she oversee all projects. This behavior immediately angered Jerry. If Kerrigan hadn't asked Jerry to listen to them temporarily before leaving, Jerry would have started working with the Black Widow. Don't think that labor and management are still the same powerless researcher. Neither Jerry nor Natasha Romanoff knew that someone had been watching their troubles. "Queen, is it really appropriate for Jerry to be at odds with Natasha Romanoff? I doubt Natasha Romanoff will take the opportunity to pass information to SHIELD." Jane said, holding the phone. Her spiritual power has not yet reached the level of super long-distance spiritual communication, and she is not a Zerg, so she cannot communicate using the spiritual network, so she only communicates with Kerrigan by phone. She doesn't have the guts. "Nick Fury is already scared of me." On Skull Island, Kerrigan, who was inspecting the final construction of the medium-sized nuclear reactor by the Insect Queens, chuckled, "Although Natasha Romanoff used to work in SHIELD, she is now my subordinate and has no guts to disobey my orders. Let her keep an eye on her." It's also a good thing to have Jerry. Although Jerry is really good at management, when dealing with veterans like the military and SHIELD, he is basically the kind who helps count the money after being sold. You understand? Jane suddenly realized that someone like Natasha Romanoff, who was obviously a spy, could not be entrusted with important tasks by the Queen. It seems that he is just using her as a housekeeper for the time being. After all, he and Jerry are not as experienced as Natasha Romanoff. Dealing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the military still requires professionals. Maybe, when she and Jerry grow up, Natasha Romanoff will be kicked out by the Queen. Jane was secretly happy and immediately said, "I understand what the Queen means. I will study seriously with Natasha Romanoff and grow up as soon as possible." Kerrigan smiled and hung up. Just as Jane thought, Kerrigan kept Natasha Romanoff just to lend her hand to train his subordinates. Talents are rare, and insect queens cannot appear in large numbers in human sight, so cultivating humans who are loyal to themselves is a must. She sighed softly, looked at the building that was gradually taking shape in front of her, and nodded with satisfaction. Finally completed, Flying Dragon Tower. Although Kerrigan unlocked the Wyvern Tower and tunnel network after killing the New U base. But after thinking about it, she decided to build a network of tunnels in New York first, and put the Flying Dragon Tower on hold for the time being, preparing to arrange construction on Skull Island. New York is crowded, and it is also an important economic place for America. The emergence of the Zerg has already touched the sensitive nerves of the military and SHIELD. If they invade New York, it is estimated that both parties will fight to the death to stop them. Chapter 39. As the Wyvern Tower was completed, the heart of the swarm also gave hints. Congratulations to the host for establishing the Flying Dragon Tower. The larvae in your family have unlocked a new mutation branch, the Mutant Dragon. The Mutalosaurus is one of the Zerg flight units and the most important air combat unit of the Zerg. The alien dragon has excellent maneuverability and certain ground attack ability, and is an excellent reconnaissance and harassment unit. However, due to its weapon damage and range, the Mutalosaurus has limited frontal combat capabilities. You can upgrade it later. After looking at the instructions from the heart of the swarm, Kerrigan ordered in a deep voice to put larvae into the Wyvern Tower and arrange for them to mutate. The first Allosaurus was quickly produced. It is nearly 5 meters long, with a pair of fleshy wings attached to its back, and its forelimbs are so short that they are almost invisible. Its body is extremely slender, with sharp bone spurs and cuticles. The alien dragon climbed out of the Flying Dragon Tower, shook its body, and spread its wings. Then, the mutalisks lay on the ground and saluted Kerrigan. Kerrigan looked at the mutalisks, a glimmer of satisfaction flashing in her eyes. The mutation of larvae is not smooth sailing. Out of 10 larvae, there is a high probability that 3 will die because the individual cannot withstand the power of mutation. Even among larvae born in the same clutch, there will be individual differences. This larva is ahead of the others and has successfully mutated, so Kerrigan will naturally reward it. She pondered for a moment. Yes, you are the first to be promoted, and you will receive my gift. From now on, your name will be Gulacrond, Lord of the Mutant Dragon, Gulacrond. As he spoke, Kerrigan's fingers bloomed with a beam of light and shot towards Gulacrond's head. As the beam was absorbed, Gulacrond's body trembled slightly and gradually became larger. This is Kerrigan's rarely used ability skill, genetic sublimation. Gene sublimation: use psychic energy to bless a Zerg to increase the gene activity in its body, enhance its IQ, attack power, and defense. The number of times this skill can be used will increase as the host's integration level increases. Please note that this skill will not affect Zerg heroes. The unit is invalid, and each Zerg can only receive the blessing once. Current number of uses, 0/2. Kerrigan has been exploring this ability skill, and the first blessing was given to Awaken, and the second blessing was given to Gulacrond. The importance of the mutant dragon is self-evident, so Kerrigan will generously grant the blessing. The commander of the mutant dragon must be a mutant dragon. The light disappeared, Gulacrond's wings turned grey-black, the body length became nearly 10 meters file size, and the wingspan reached a terrifying 15 meters. Thank you for your gift, Gulacrond swears allegiance to the Queen to the death. Gulacrond saluted again, and some gas was emitted from the small holes all over its body, causing its body to rise slowly. The wings of the Allosaurus are mostly used to control the direction of its own flight. Its main flight method is to propel itself by ejecting gas through the blowholes on its body. In other words, the Allosaurus is a biological jet flight weapon. I'll leave the alien dragon force to your management. Remember to train the troops from time to time. There will be many places where your efforts will be needed in the future. Kerrigan raised the corners of her mouth slightly. Don't let me down. As you command, Queen. After solving the problem of mutalisks, Kerrigan carefully arranged the Zerg's building upgrades and resource development on Skull Island. After the successful operation of the medium-sized nuclear reactor, Skull Island's energy problems were temporarily alleviated. However, the small environment of Skull Island also limits the development of the Zerg population. After all, King Kong still lives on the island. If Kerrigan covers the entire island with creep, he will have no place to sleep. Queen, we have basically taken over all the islands around Skull Island. My subordinates think that humans can use the method of filling in the soil to build islands to connect and transform these islands into land. When Kerrigan was considering how to expand Skull Island's territory, a bug queen put forward her own opinions. Kerrigan was stunned for a moment and felt happy. What a great idea. It seems that you are taking the information I sent back seriously. On Skull Island, Kerrigan not only sent back many modified genetic fragments, but also a lot of information and knowledge about the human world. Kerrigan knows that this world is extremely dangerous, and the way the Zerg behaved in the StarCraft world will only arouse the hostility of the entire universe. He eats everything, kills everyone he sees, and simply seeks death in this world. Therefore, the Zerg must make some changes. In Kerrigan's vision, the Zerg were not a terrifying race bent on evolving and devouring the world, but an intelligent race with powerful capabilities in biotechnology. There is a world of difference between the two. Moreover, this world is so interesting, and Kerrigan is not willing to let the Zerg eat them all. Kerrigan chuckled and said, I am very happy that you can put forward this opinion. Keep working hard. I will bless you next time. The insect queen suppressed the joy in her heart. Thank you, queen, for your grace. Let's arrange it. This must be done before I leave Skull Island. Your will is our direction. In the laboratory, Tony and Ethan opened their eyes wide and looked at the light spots in front of them. Gorgeous. Absolutely God's work. The two of them looked at the light spot, their eyes full of obsession and passion. For a scientist, what could be more exciting than discovering a new element? Tony carefully took the instrument and recovered the light spot. He looked at the vessel in his hand and was so happy that he looked at Ethan and ran directly to the basement. He was going to start building a brand new reactor. And in the distant furry bear country, Yvonne was looking at the instrument in front of him intently. This is a weapon that he has worked hard to build these days, specifically to deal with Tony Stark. He named it Mangbian. At the same time, he also built his own reactor. Yvonne vows to destroy Iron Man's reputation. Kerrigan lay on her side on the throne, enjoying the warm sunshine. Huge amounts of footsteps sounded. King Kong's big face came over and he was holding a banana tree. Seeing this, Kerrigan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Xiaojin, you have almost uprooted all the banana trees in your territory in the past few days since I came back. King Kong Hun didn't care. Kerrigan reluctantly accepted King Kong's gift. At this time, the phone next to me rang. Kerrigan's eyes moved, and the phone flew to her ear. Your Majesty, I have built a new reactor, and I am planning to hold an industrial expo. I would like to invite you to attend. What do you think? Tony on the other end of the phone said proudly. He naturally has the capital to be proud. After receiving Howard Stark's inheritance, within just a few months, he fulfilled his father's wish, successfully found new elements and completed a new reactor. How many scientists in human history can be as genius as him? The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. She was very satisfied that Tony could come up with the results so quickly. He is indeed the most famous inventor in the Marvel world. Very good, I will return to America soon. I am looking forward to the new energy source you have developed. After hanging up the phone, Kerrigan stretched lazily. The vacation is over, I'm really reluctant to leave. She chuckled, I'm afraid, many people wish I would never return to America. Chapter 40. Jane's relationship with Natasha Romanoff has improved a lot recently. Natasha Romanoff is a good teacher and taught Jane a lot of knowledge. Jane has a kind nature and is favored by Natasha Romanoff, and the two gradually open up. I can't believe that, Sister Natasha Romanoff, you are almost 40 years old and you are still in such good shape. Jane is shopping with Natasha Romanoff at the moment. The movie setting is used here. The screenwriter said that Natasha Romanoff was born in 1984, not during World War II. It's average. To be honest, if it weren't for the anti-aging serum I injected earlier, I would have retired long ago. Natasha Romanoff sighed. Using serum to fight aging? Will there be any side effects? Jane asked hesitantly. Definitely, the price is, I will never be able to be a mother. Natasha Romanoff said with a relaxed expression. Jane was a little surprised and said slowly, it seems that the spiritual power taught by the Queen is better. It has no side effects and can also extend life and resist aging. Natasha Romanoff certainly knows what psychic powers are. She also envied this special ability, but she also knew that Kerrigan would not teach her psychic powers. Natasha Romanoff could only sigh. Indeed, compared to those genetic drugs and psychic powers, they are really in the sky. Jane wanted to comfort Natasha Romanoff, but gave up after thinking about it. The two fell into silence. On the other side, Kerrigan returned to the new hive in Awaken. She first checked Abathur's work progress these days, and then looked at Banner. Banner is in good condition and has gained weight thanks to Abathur's delicious food and drinks. If Banner's girlfriend Betty saw Banner now, she probably wouldn't recognize him at all. This guy was fed fat by the Zerg. Banner also expressed his gratitude and apology to Kerrigan. "Thank you, Your Majesty, and I apologize for my previous rudeness." Banner raised his face and said seriously. He can also distinguish between good and bad. He suffered various tortures in the military before, which made him worse than death. Now that he has been transferred to the hands of the Zerg, although he still has no freedom, at least his living conditions are much better, and Abathur has not used a knife on him at all. He is said to be an experimental subject, but it is actually a different kind of vacation. He had extra meals every now and then, and from time to time he had the opportunity to go out of the base and bask in the sun. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that his beloved Betty was waiting for him in the military, Banner might have just thought about joining the Zerg. Abathur beside him clasped his four limbs together. "Bruce Banner is very cooperative with our research and often makes useful suggestions. It can be seen that he has a good impression of Banner, and there will always be chats between beings who love research, whether they are human or not." Kerrigan chuckled and said, "It seems that you are doing well at the base, but Banner, I guess you will have to leave the base soon." Banner was stunned and didn't understand. Kerrigan said earnestly, "The military only wants to further develop the super soldier program by handing you over to me, and it is only temporarily handed over to the Zerg. After all, you are very dangerous." Banner heard this and nodded silently. How could he not know how dangerous he was? Kerrigan looked at the silent Banner and suddenly smiled. "Abathur should have told you that the Zerg will not teach you how to control Hulk's ability, but for your cooperation in the research, I have already done it for you. Another way to control the Hulk that is original to the Earth has been sorted out." As she spoke, a USB flash drive flew out from her waist. "Hulk is not a monster, he is actually another you. As long as you communicate with him calmly, you can control Hulk as you wish, but this requires a lot of practice." Banner's eyes widened. He had always thought Hulk was a devil, but he didn't expect Kerrigan to tell him now that Hulk was actually another version of himself. He took the USB flash drive and said seriously, "Thank you, Your Majesty." "You're welcome. I also appreciate you very much. You have power but are not lost in power. You have the potential to become a hero." The corner of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. "Definitely, if you want to be an enemy of the Zerg in the future, we will not show mercy." Banner took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, please rest assured that as long as the Zerg are not enemies of humans, Bruce Banner will never be angry with the Zerg." Banner borrowed the biological computer developed by Abathur and started his own practice. Abathur followed Kerrigan to a quiet room. "Queen, although Banner is indeed a human being with great potential, is such preferential treatment?" Abathur said hesitantly. Kerrigan chuckled, "Preferential treatment? The capital invested in him will be doubled back from the military. Abathur, humans are planning to form a special force, all composed of special soldiers with extraordinary abilities. Armed forces. If I win over the members of this force in advance, will they still be our enemies?" Abathur was stunned. "What do you mean?" "For the time being, I have no plans to devour this planet." Kerrigan walked to the window with her hands behind her back. "After all, this planet is dominated by humans. For so long, you have also seen how huge and terrifying their numbers and weapons are. If a war breaks out between humans and Zerg, do you think we have the ability to eat this planet?" Abathur was silent for a moment. "It's difficult. Although this planet is rich in resources, most of them are controlled by humans. The resources we can steal are very limited. And this universe also has more secrets that we don't know. Making friends with humans and setting our sights on the entire universe is our real purpose." Kerrigan whispered, "Only the Zerg flying in the starry sky are the real Zerg." The truth is exactly what Kerrigan said. She had no intention of taking over the Earth. There are so many planets outside the Earth that can be developed by the Zerg, why focus on the small Earth? Earth is just the springboard for the Zerg, and it is also where Kerrigan vacations and relaxes. Her eyes never turned to the ground, but always looked up at the stars. Jane and Natasha Romanoff returned to the hotel talking and laughing. They are staying here temporarily these days. As soon as she entered the door, Jane sensed familiar psychic fluctuations. She immediately knelt down and said in surprise, "Queen, you are back." Natasha Romanoff also immediately saluted, I have met His Majesty. Kerrigan slowly turned around and smiled, well done, thank you for your hard work these days. As soon as she raised her hand, the two of them were lifted up by invisible power. I just got back from Umbrella, Natasha Romanoff, you did a great job keeping S.H.I.E.L.D and the military out of the sand. Kerrigan looked at Natasha Romanoff, although you worked for S.H.I.E.L.D before, you have worked hard under me these days. I have specially prepared a gift for you to reward your efforts. As she spoke, she waved her hand, and a bottle of potion flew to Natasha Romanoff. This is an anti-aging potion that I specially prepared for you. It was developed on the basis of the Super Soldier Serum. It has the effects of enhancing physical fitness and restoring status. Drink it. Natasha Romanoff was pleasantly surprised. She didn't expect that Kerrigan would actually benefit her so much. Her mind moved and she took the potion with some hesitation. Kerrigan chuckled and said, don't worry, there are no personal items, and I won't treat my subordinates badly. Natasha Romanoff nodded and downed the drink. The potion will continue to transform your body within 24 hours. There will be no pain. It can also cure your infertility problem. By the way, inform Director Nick Fury and the military that the Level 1 Super Soldier Serum has been released. The research is done and now it's time for them to see the results. Chapter 41. After hearing Kerrigan's explanation, Natasha Romanoff was even more excited. But as a veteran agent, she still suppressed her emotions. Natasha Romanoff lowered her head and said, Your Majesty the Queen, I don't know how to repay your grace. Kerrigan chuckled and said, Don't think so much, just serve me well. Now, go do the work. As commanded. Natasha Romanoff bowed deeply and left the room. Jane approached Kerrigan. She was a little confused. Queen, what are you doing? Kerrigan sat down slowly, it's just a small profit to get a big benefit. Jane nodded, still a little confused about this, but she wouldn't hold it against Kerrigan. Kerrigan secretly smiled in her heart. Among the core of the Avengers, there were already 3 people who were attracted by the Zerg. When the Civil War broke out, she could pull these people into the Zerg camp with a little temptation. Even if they did not join the Zerg, they would still refuse to fight with the Zerg. The Zerg are the enemy. By then, Black Braised Egg will probably go crazy, right? The Avengers we worked so hard to form turned into someone else's child? Lao Wang next door shed tears after hearing this. But what does that have to do with the Zerg? Natasha Romanoff comes to Nick Fury's office. Oh? Has His Majesty returned to New York? Fury, who was reading the information, raised his head and narrowed his eyes. She has been away for nearly 3 months. What is her plan for coming back? Natasha Romanoff whispered, First, the modified super soldier serum developed by the Zerg has begun to show results. I would like to ask you and the military to go and check it. Second, participate in the upcoming Industrial Expo held by Stark Industries. Is that so? Okay, what time? Tomorrow morning, the original Umbrella New Vietnam underground base. Natasha Romanoff said, neither humble nor condescending. Oh. Fury was a little surprised. The Zerg would open their base to them? What signal is Your Majesty sending? Okay, I understand. By the way, you've been working there for almost 3 months. Are you used to it? Do you want to come back for a while to revise? Fury suddenly laughed. Natasha Romanoff was stunned. Pretty good. Fury squinted his eyes and looked deeply at Natasha Romanoff. Agent Romanoff, you have to remember that you work for humanity. Natasha Romanoff's heart moved and she replied calmly, this is natural. If there is nothing else, I will leave first and go to the Pentagon. Fury responded. Natasha Romanoff saluted and left directly. A person enters Fury's office through the side door. Fury gently pressed his eyebrows. Captain, I always feel that the Romanoff agent is at risk of rebellion. Steve took the chair and sat down. You are always suspicious, so I don't see anything unusual. I might as well focus on your plan. You're right. Fury put aside his doubts. The Zerg are now at peace, and the cooperation between the two parties is relatively stable. However, the ghosts within S.H.I.E.L.D are the real trouble. When Natasha Romanoff walked out of the S.H.I.E.L.D building, she looked at the S.H.I.E.L.D sign hanging high and felt cold in her heart. She is not from America, so she joined S.H.I.E.L.D because S.H.I.E.L.D saved her from that hell. Now, after only working with His Majesty for 3 months, Nick Fury began to doubt her loyalty, which made Natasha Romanoff feel a rift towards SHIELD. However, this crack is not obvious yet. Early the next morning, Fury took Captain America to the address given by Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff had been waiting for a long time, and soon the military representatives arrived. Old friend, General Ross. However, there was one guest who was not part of the plan. His daughter Betty. Seeing Fury's curious face, General Ross smiled bitterly and said, "Betty is worried about Banner. She begged so hard that I can only bring her to see her." Fury nodded without saying a word. When Natasha Romanoff saw everyone had arrived, she led them into the elevator of the building. The original Umbrella New York base was built underground in a building in Times Square. Kerrigan simply bought the building and used it as the new Umbrella office. The elevator goes all the way to the 30th floor underground. Natasha Romanoff walked out of the elevator with a smile. "Please follow me, His Majesty is waiting for you in the living room." Everyone filed out, and Fury was keenly aware that this base had undergone many transformations. From the confessions of Umbrella employees and the information collected, they also knew the structure of the Umbrella base. Now, the original structure of this base is basically invisible. Although it is still dominated by steel buildings, there are also various totems expressing Zerg culture. Ever since he learned about the Zerg, Fury has been investigating various intelligence about this special intelligent race. How to evaluate a race as an intelligent race? Technology, military, culture, economy, politics, etc. are all indispensable standards. In the S.H.I.E.L.D information, the Zerg are a typical authoritarian race. The entire group acts completely based on the orders of the Supreme Leader. At least for the time being, he has not received any information about the internal strife of the Zerg. Fury frowned and looked at the sign on the door in front of him. "What's this pattern?" Natasha Romanoff said with a smile, "This is one of the totems of the Zerg. According to His Majesty, this is the creator of the Zerg create." Fury wrote down this information and the pattern in his mind. Living room. Kerrigan, who was drinking tea, showed a smile. "Put up a few more big flags and let them guess." After coming to this world and the Zerg gaining a foothold in New York, the first thing Kerrigan did was to investigate the world to see if there were Xel'Naga. This is a very important thing. She didn't want to be bound by fate because of some messy prophecy. After reviewing a large amount of information, she determined that Xel'Naga did not exist in this world. Kerrigan breathed a sigh of relief. However, she still established the Xel'Naga as the totem of the Zerg. First of all, she is just the queen of the Zerg now, and will be promoted to the master when her integration reaches 100%. Second, it is to make other forces more unclear about the origin of the Zerg. The existence of Xel'Naga is similar to that of Marvel's Celestials. If you want to find out this information, except for the Celestials' active appearance, it is all in vain. Throw a few more smoke bombs and let them spend more time investigating the elusive Xel'Naga. Fury and others followed Natasha Romanoff and saw a lot of interesting things along the way. A huge insect queen who is busy in front of the biological computer. Springtails running with various materials on their backs. These scenes were really eye-opening for them. This is also some of the information Kerrigan intends to release. The Zerg currently working in this base are all individuals who are weak and not suitable for mutation. There's no harm in exposing some information and letting them take the Zerg lightly. Finally, the group arrived at the living room. Kerrigan stood up slowly and looked at everyone with a smile. "Welcome to the insect nest." Chapter 42. Everyone saluted. "It's an honor to meet you, Her Majesty the Queen." Kerrigan nodded. "I know you have a lot of doubts in your hearts. Let's ask our Zerg genetic engineer Abathur to explain it to you." She waved her hand, and Abathur entered the living room through the back door. Except for Natasha Romanoff, everyone who saw Abathur looked shocked. The appearance of this Zerg is terrifying enough. Abathur lowered his head slightly, and a deep voice sounded in everyone's ears. "Welcome everyone, I will explain to you the current progress of the super soldier serum." Fury coughed. "Mr. Abathur, please stop for a moment." Abathur was a little confused. Fury glanced at the S.H.I.E.L.D agents around him. The captain stays, the others go out and wait. General Ross also reacted and whispered for the officers to get out. Betty was a little reluctant. She came here for Banner. She hadn't seen Banner yet, so she was naturally unhappy. General Ross was about to scold Betty when he heard Kerrigan laugh and say, "Natasha Romanoff, take Miss Betty to see Bruce Banner." "As you command, Your Majesty, please come with me, Miss Betty." Natasha Romanoff laughed. Betty cast a grateful look at Kerrigan and jumped to follow Natasha Romanoff. The door to the living room was closed, and the deputies who were driven out looked at each other and planned to stand guard at the door. An insect queen approached and said using psychic energy, "Please follow me, the queen has prepared a rest room for you." One of the S.H.I.E.L.D agents coughed, "Is there a toilet here?" The queen of insects was a little confused, "Do you need to defecate?" The man grinned, what Zerg said was really uncomfortable. The others suppressed their laughter, and the other S.H.I.E.L.D agent quickly said, "Yes, it's excretion." Yes, the rest room has excretion facilities specially built for humans. Although there was no tone fluctuation in the psychic communication, everyone always felt that the insect queen in front of them was making fun of them. Everyone followed the insect queen to the lounge. The person who said he wanted to go to the toilet rushed into the toilet, while the others started talking and laughing. The man checked the toilet and found that there was no surveillance device. He breathed a sigh of relief and then pressed the side button of his watch. "Reporting to Commander Pierce, I have entered the Zerg hive. Nick Fury is discussing the Super Soldier project with the Zerg Queen Kerrigan and the military representative General Ross. Well, continue to observe and try to collect as much information as possible about the Zerg." Clear. After disconnecting, the agent squatted in the toilet for a while before leaving from the toilet with a comfortable look on his face. He didn't know that a smile flashed in the eyes of the insect queen who had just served tea to everyone in the lounge, and she secretly wrote down what he said. "To sum up, the super soldier serum has met your current needs. You can definitely develop it further if you want, but..." Abathur, who was talking eloquently, paused. Fury and General Ross, whose appetites were whetted by him, widened their eyes, "But what? You have to pay more." There was a slight smile in Abathur's tone. Fury and General Ross' expressions twitched. What are these Zerg doing? Even if the Queen likes lions to open their mouths, why do scientists insist on asking for money? Is your race just for making money? You know, the Zerg are asking for large sums of money from S.H.I.E.L.D and the military these days. Although I am quite satisfied with the effect of the super soldier serum that Abathur has described so far, it would be better if it could go further. But about adding money? General Ross coughed and looked at Kerrigan, who was elegantly tasting black tea. "Your Majesty, didn't we sign a cooperation agreement before? Didn't the funds we paid before be enough, Colonel? There is only one more successful example, Mr. Steve Rogers, and our Zerg only used it for 3 months and spent less than $1.5 billion. In theory, it has reached the level of Mr. Rogers. Are you still not satisfied? Definitely, you can also give up and continue to study in depth. After all, this is a cooperation project proposed by you. As developers, we have already met your needs." General Ross's face twitched and he whispered, "How much more?" "That depends on how much you want to improve." Kerrigan smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. I don't think you can make this decision for the time being. Now let's talk about the distribution of serum shares." Abathur immediately said, "Limited by funds and materials, we have developed a total of 10 super soldier serums. Definitely, if you need more, you need to continue to inject funds, and the Zerg are also willing to continue manufacturing for you. However, for these 10 serums, I provide you with 2 options." He looked at Captain America, "Mr. Steve Rogers, if you are willing, we can use 3 of the serums to integrate to further enhance your physical fitness." Steve, who was sitting aside and eating his melon in peace, was stunned for a moment, and then he was overjoyed. "Can we really go one step further?" "Definitely." Abathur's forelimbs shook slightly. "According to calculations, these serums can increase your strength by 30%. You should also know what a terrifying increase this is." Steve nodded and patted Fury on the shoulder. His eyes were firm and his meaning was clear. "Braised eggs, help me." Fury's mouth twitched. General Ross frowned. "Wait a minute, you haven't explained the distribution of these serums yet." Abathur spread his forelimbs. "Sorry, the distribution matters were not clearly stated in the agreement we signed before. The Zerg are only responsible for development and will not participate in distribution." Fury and General Ross looked at each other, wariness rising in their eyes. General Ross slapped the table, "I am 7 and you are 3. How is that possible? S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't pay less, so why did you take 7? Fury is not to be outdone. Although the captain only needs 3 to improve, who doesn't want to get more? The two of them stared at each other with fire in their eyes. Kerrigan, who was sitting on the side, smiled scornfully. In fact, Abathur just spent 3 hours making this batch of serum. Such low-level stuff was not worthy of him going to war. Definitely, kill the pig. The Zerg controls the core technology, so how to price it? Is it not the Zerg that has the final say? Kerry is willing to ask for various special genetic stocks from the military and SHIELD. These guys have a lot of good stuff on their hands. She glanced at the nervous Captain America. Perhaps, you can add more trouble to the black braised eggs. Led by Natasha Romanoff, Betty came to Banner's room. She was a little nervous, wondering whether Banner was doing well at the Zerg base or whether he had suffered inhuman torture. Natasha Romanoff walked her to the door and left with a chuckle. Betty took a deep breath and reached for the doorknob. The door is unlocked. She was a little confused. Logically speaking, Banner was also very important to the Zerg. How could he not lock the door? Confused, she opened the door. The house is a bit messy, but the living environment is not bad. There are all kinds of furniture, the TV is on, a figure is sitting on the sofa, and the TV shows an intense game screen. Abathur, are you coming to play games with me again? The figure heard the door opening and said casually without turning his head. Although the voice had some shape-shifting, Betty still recognized it as Banner. Her eyes widened and she walked up to Banner. Betty's pupil shrank. Oh my god, Banner, how did you become like this? Chapter 43. At the moment, Banner's face is full of fat, and he is no longer the cool scientist image he had before. Seeing Betty's expression, Banner was a little embarrassed. Ahem, Betty, are you here? Betty nodded slowly and asked sadly, Banner, what did the Zerg do to you? Why are you so fat? Banner scratched his head. He wanted to speak, but he didn't know how to explain. What to say? I live a life like a fairy in the Zerg base, eating and drinking every day, 7 meals a day. Abathur came to him to play games when he had nothing to do. It would be no exaggeration to say that he was enjoying himself here and did not miss Shu. Well, the Zerg treat me very well, but I've been neglecting exercise recently. Don't worry Betty, I'll lose weight soon. Banner stammered in explanation. Betty breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, she was very happy to see that Banner was safe now. Just be fat. The two of them sat together smiling and talking about recent events. In the living room, Fury and General Ross almost started fighting. Black braised eggs, let me say it one last time, I am 6 and you are 4, this is our bottom line. General Ross cursed and refused to give an inch. Impossible. Fury was not to be outdone, 5 to 5 at most. Kerrigan snapped her fingers, you two, it's just 10 serums. There's no need to get into a tense situation. Let's do this. As long as you two continue to invest, the Zerg will develop the serum for you as soon as possible to meet your needs. These 10 serums will be enough. Let's split it 50 to 50. Definitely, the Zerg hopes that both of you will try to pay with resources and mutated genes, and support it with US dollars, which will also facilitate Abathur's further experiments. What resources? The Zerg are not picky about their food. Minerals and special metals are all fine. The two looked at each other and finally accepted the proposal. Seeing that the two agreed, Kerrigan waved her hand, and Abathur immediately left, saying that he would step up development. Nick Fury seemed to remember something. Her Majesty the Queen, I have a request. Kerrigan seemed to know what he was going to say. Speak. Now that the Zerg have developed the super soldier serum, can Bruce Banner be handed over to SHIELD? After all, he is dangerous, and I believe the Zerg don't want to leave such a dangerous factor behind. Fury said with a smile. General Ross frowned. This guy wants to rob people. No, even if it needs to be handed back, it will be handed over to the military for management. Fury whispered, General Ross, how about we make a deal? S.H.I.E.L.D. is willing to exchange 2 super soldier serums for Bruce Banner. This was not Nick Fury's sudden intention. He had long planned to absorb Banner into S.H.I.E.L.D. and become a member of the Avengers. Bruce Banner has the belief to protect others, which is worth the bloodshed of SHIELD. Anyway, the captain can only use 3 serums to increase his strength. It is good to trade the other two. Besides, for the time being, before the plan is completed, within the entire SHIELD Fury doesn't have anyone who can be injected with the super soldier serum yet. Phil Coulson barely counts as one. General Ross's beard curled up. Is this true? Although Banner is precious, compared with the two serums, it seems to be about the same. Moreover, he had long been unhappy with Banner, a boy who was flirting with his own daughter, so it was in line with his wishes to kick him out of SHIELD definitely. Fury said calmly. He looked at Kerrigan again. Your Majesty, I wonder if you agree. Okay, but... The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. Bruce Banner consumed nearly $3 million of our supplies at the Zerg base. In order to keep him calm, we also provided him with various appliances and entertainment facilities. S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to pay this bill, dollars or jeans. And resources are available. $3 million. Your Majesty, do you think we are the pirates? Fury felt unhappy when he heard this. Although Her Majesty the Queen likes lions to open their mouths, Fury always relies on the strength of the Zerg to become a Jounin. But what the hell did Bruce Banner eat? $3 million in 3 months? Does he eat gold every day? It's even more outrageous than the $2,000 for a mug in the military. Kerrigan shook his head. Director Nick Fury, I believe you all know that if Bruce Banner does not maintain a peaceful mind, he will transform into Hulk at any time. There is no need for the Zerg to lie to you. As she spoke, she waved her hand, and an image appeared on the screen in the living room. Banner's current physical condition is nearly twice as good as before he came to the Zerg base. The various foods he eats are carefully prepared by the Zerg. They are not only beneficial to the body, but also reduce the probability of him getting angry. Oh, these substances have some sequelae. It's easy to gain weight, but with a little exercise, you can lose weight quickly. Kerrigan said with a smile. Looking at the pig-fat Banner in the video, Fury's brows almost formed the shape of a Sichuan character. General Ross was having fun, folding his arms to see how Black Braised Egg made his decision. Kerrigan released another video. To dispel your doubts, we also specifically tested Banner's current combat effectiveness. It has increased by nearly 20% compared to before. $3 million. Is it really expensive? Fury looked at the powerful Hulk. Although he had gained weight, his statistics did look much stronger, and he nodded helplessly. It's really not expensive. The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. Another big steal. Banner eats food developed by the Zerg using creep, which costs almost nothing. The carpet is rich in protein and is a necessary condition for the Zerg to attack. In fact, the bottom of Skull Island is almost covered with fungi, and the so-called increase in combat effectiveness. Banner has been suppressing Hulk before, hiding here and there, unable to eat well, and unable to sleep well. Hulk can perform 7 points out of 10, which is considered very powerful. Now that he eats well and drinks well, and knows how to control Hulk, his strength has improved. Kerrigan snapped her fingers. Definitely, as long as S.H.I.E.L.D. needs it, the Zerg are willing to provide you with the kind of food that Bruce Banner eats. The price is easy to say. Apart from being easy to gain weight, this kind of food is perfect military food. Although the super soldier serum is powerful, the injected person's demand for protein and other elements will also increase significantly. If these foods are available, S.H.I.E.L.D. can save a lot of money, so why not? Kerrigan is not talking nonsense about this. These specially developed foods are indeed good for super soldier serum users, but they still have to be a little bit real. Kerrigan's smile was huge. But Nick Fury's mood was extremely cold. At this time, General Ross once again sent a divine assist. Your Majesty, can our military purchase this kind of food? He was also excited. The military was about to have 7 super soldiers. How to replenish their energy was a big problem. We couldn't let the soldiers chew energy bars for a long time before going to war. Kerrigan's smile widened. Definitely, as long as the price is right, the Zerg are happy to cooperate with the military. Black Braised Dan's heart tightened. He must not fall behind to the military. He slapped the table and showed his domineering attitude. I'll buy it. Banner followed Betty, looking back at Abathur who was waving to him. I will come again when I have time. He really couldn't bear to leave. Although he has gained the freedom to join SHIELD, what is waiting for him in S.H.I.E.L.D? He didn't know and didn't dare to think about it. Betty looked at Kerrigan's figure and was secretly grateful. Your Majesty is such a good person, and I must repay her in the future. He didn't know how Kerrigan would laugh if he knew what she was thinking. You actually think a king is a good person? As a king, there is only the desire to control everything in his heart, and there is no distinction between good and bad. Holding the suitcase containing 7 serums, General Ross, whose nose was bubbling, looked at his daughter's eyes, thoughtfully. Let's talk about it when we get back, this time it's a bumper harvest. Kerrigan put away her smile as she looked at the people walking up to the elevator and leaving. Shield worryingly, the moles have become Nick Fury's henchmen. Forget it, no matter what, as long as Hydra doesn't PK the Zerg, just leave them alone. Once Hydra is eliminated, it's no longer fun. At this time, Tony called Kerrigan again. The Stark Industrial Expo will officially open in 7 days. If Kerrigan is free, she can visit Tony for a few days first. Kerrigan agreed, hung up the phone, and began to recall the plot of Iron Man 2 in her mind. Ivan Vank, the Morning Whip, is worthless and not worthy of attention. Hammer Industries is just a joker. He can't do anything. He ranks first in illness. Forget it, let's just watch the show this time. But, that hammer. She pondered for a moment and ordered several king insects to start moving in the direction of Mexico. Kerrigan raised her head and looked up at the bright stars. God King Odin, I am very curious about your treasure house. Chapter 44. On the beach behind Tony's house, Kerrigan and the others were enjoying the melodious sea breeze and warm sunshine. Kerrigan attended the opening ceremony of Stark Industries the day before yesterday, and I have to say that Tony's appearance was quite cool. The official expo will be held in 3 days. After all, for a large expo like this, many industrial companies have to transport a lot of equipment, and the preparation time will be longer. I heard you were in some trouble yesterday. Kerrigan asked casually, wearing sunglasses. Ah, does Her Majesty the Queen know about it too? It's just a small issue, just a ruined hearing. Tony chuckled, those guys don't have the guts to take action and use the official to suppress me. You still need to do some coping. There are many people staring at you now. Kerrigan said calmly. Tony nodded slightly. He suddenly laughed, Your Majesty the Queen, you have been on Earth for so long, have you ever learned about human entertainment activities? I don't have the time to pay attention to this. Kerrigan looked indifferent. Your Majesty, you are wrong. Entertainment activities in the human world are the best way to understand human beings. There happens to be a racing competition in Monaco tomorrow. Are you interested in going to see it together? Kerrigan shook her head, when you can use psychic flight to break the sound barrier every second, no speed competition will interest you. The corner of Tony's mouth twitched, you are too outrageous. However, since you sincerely invited me, I naturally want to go and take a look. Kerrigan changed her subject and smiled. Ethan on the side smiled and said, Tony, you still haven't thanked Your Majesty. Tony thanked him with a smile, he was very happy that Kerrigan could give him this face. Early the next morning, Kerrigan and others took a plane to the scheduled competition site. Tony happily put on his driver's uniform, waved to the cheering crowd, and got into the car. This is a program he specially prepared. Kerrigan, accompanied by Ethan, sat in the VIP seat and watched the game. Kerrigan glanced at a staff member on the sidelines of the track and raised her eyebrows slightly. Found it. Your Majesty, please look, the game is about to start. Pepper thought Kerrigan didn't understand this, so she excitedly introduced Kerrigan. Kerrigan didn't care and listened to her explanation with interest. The race started, and Tony took the lead and rushed out with the roar of the car. The car he rides is extremely fast and he quickly leaves other players behind. The little Peppers in the stands were jumping and cheering for Tony, and Ethan was also excited about this exciting scene. Only Kerrigan sat firmly on the fishing platform with no wavering in his eyes. At this time, a staff member wearing a hat suddenly rushed into the runway regardless of other people's obstruction. Hey? What's going on? A fan of Mr. Stark? This man is so brave. Aren't you afraid of being hit to death? Everyone in the stands talked a lot, but they didn't take it to heart. But he saw the man suddenly tearing open his upper body clothes and exposing his arms. I saw that both of his hands were wearing a set of exoskeleton armor, which was quite powerful. The most surprising thing is that on his chest, there is a small nuclear reactor shining brightly. Little Pepper in the stands immediately stood up, no. I saw the man shaking his hands, and the armor on both arms glowed with a bright blue light, forming 2 light whips. Tony, who was sitting in the racing car, looked shocked, but it was too late to slow down. Snapped. With a soft sound, Tony's car was instantly split into 2. Fortunately, he retracted his legs quickly and was not cut into 2 pieces by the light whip. Everyone present screamed in alarm, and the entire competition scene was instantly in chaos. "Tony Stark," the man shouted. "I am Ivan Vanko. Today, I want to demand repayment from you for the crimes committed by the Stark family against our family." Pepper in the stands didn't know what to do. She looked left and right and hugged Kerrigan's arm. "Your Majesty, please save Tony." Kerrigan said with a smile in her eyes, "You underestimate Tony now. Fortunately, I also taught you psychic powers at that time. Are you still unable to detect psychic fluctuations now?" Ethan is very calm. Pepper was stunned, then turned around to see Ethan happily drinking a drink, without feeling nervous at all. "Don't worry, Tony's psychic energy fluctuations are very stable. That guy might be preparing for his ultimate move," Ethan said with a smile. Little Pepper was a little embarrassed. Although she also learned psychic powers at the same time, it was mainly for the anti-aging and beauty effects of psychic powers, so she didn't do much exercise after joining. It's better to practice more psychic powers when you have time. It's also good to have more self-protection power. Kerrigan chuckled and said, "Now, let's see what kind of performance Tony will give us." On the track, Ivan was a little confused when he saw that Tony had not responded for a long time in the pile of junk. "What I was aiming at was the front of the car, not the body. Did he get hit and killed?" As soon as he took 2 steps closer, the pile of ruins exploded. A figure rushed out of the ruins and punched Ivan hard in the chest. Ivan flew backwards instantly and spat out a large mouthful of donated blood. "No, this is impossible. You are clearly not wearing a battle armor. How can you have so much power?" Ivan struggled to get up, looking in disbelief. Tony shrugged, "Sorry, I forgot to tell you, I don't wear armor most of the time now." He waved to the stands, and Pepper breathed a sigh of relief. "Humph, I don't know how you did it, but you are definitely no match for the morning whip I developed with so much effort." Ivan gritted his teeth, and the whip in his right hand instantly struck Tony. "Oh, cool, I have this weapon too." Tony raised the corners of his mouth slightly and dodged the blow with a slight jump. He squatted on the ground and slowly stood up. "The thing on your chest, well, it seems that you do have some stories. Wait until I beat you to death first. You made me lose face in front of our distinguished guests." As he spoke, Tony's arms began to glow, and Ivan frowned, looking at his hands warily. "Boy, you have to know that it's not easy for me to invite that distinguished guest, so I must teach you a lesson, UBD." Tony looked up at the stands and sighed. What a shame, everything was messed up and made a huge embarrassment in front of His Majesty. Now, he wants Ivan to pay the price. Kang! Tony's arms formed 2 light blue light blades, and the dazzling light blades illuminated his face. "Taste the power of the psychic blade." As he spoke, he jumped up and stabbed Ivan hard. In the stands, Kerrigan nodded slightly. Tony's ability in psychic abilities is not weak either. After practicing for more than half a year, he has reached the level of 2nd level psychic powers. Although the light blade condensed now is not worth mentioning, it is already quite good. Ivan's reaction was not slow, but Tony was faster. In just an instant, the light whip in his left hand was cut off by the psychic blade. Ivan was shocked and quickly backed away. "How can this be?" Tony raised his eyebrows. "Your light whip is very good, but my psychic power is stronger." He was filled with excitement now. Although the armor is cool, the feeling of unleashing super ability on your own is even better. "No, it's impossible, I will never lose to you, Tony Stark, I'm going to kill you." Ivan roared and swung the light whip into a phantom, trying to kill Tony. But after Tony's psychic transformation, his individual speed is no longer something that an ordinary human like him can attack, not to mention that Ivan is now missing a whip. Tony walked around casually amid the attack of the light whip, muttering, "More to the left, oh, you almost hit me, work harder." Ivan's anger became even more intense. "UBD, if you have the ability, don't hide away." No, I just like to see you unable to hit me and unable to defeat me. It's so interesting." Tony smiled brightly. Ethan in the stands helplessly covered his face, saying that he didn't know the BCH underneath. Pepper covered her mouth, afraid that she would laugh out loud. Kerrigan, a fun-loving person, didn't have so many ideas. She glanced at someone in the audience and smiled secretly in her heart. I wonder if Justin Hammer, a fool, will ask Yvonne Vang to cooperate? She was looking forward to it. Chapter 45. Tony dodged a few times and jumped behind Yvonne. Yvonne was taken aback and was about to turn around and attack, but it was too late. The psychic blade cut through the air and stabbed at his waist. He is too fast and too powerful. Ivan's heart felt cold, he closed his eyes and waited for death. The pain didn't wash over my body. Yvonne slowly opened his eyes, and Tony walked up to him with a smile and pulled out the reactor from his chest. The light whip lost its energy and shut down completely. You won't kill me. Brother who is a murderer and a criminal, the judge will judge you, not me. Tony glanced at the reactor twice and his heart sank. But he still said mercilessly, your technology is too backward, I will take this thing away. After that, he retracted the light blade and raised his hands towards the audience. The audience immediately gave him a warm cheer. People talked a lot, I didn't expect that Mr. Stark actually has super abilities. That light blade is so handsome. I wonder if Mr. Stark will accept an apprentice. The stunned Yvonne was quickly caught by the guards. He didn't resist, but shouted at Tony's back, Tony Stark, you thief. It's nonsense, just go and eat in jail. Tony waved with his back to Yvonne and walked towards the stands. Pepper rushed up and looked up and down to see if he was injured. Tony, you're going to scare me to death. I'm fine. After practicing my psychic powers for so long, I can finally show off my power. Tony replied nonchalantly, and then asked with a smile, was I handsome just now? Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth and silently looked away. Kerrigan didn't look away, pretending he didn't see it. I hate it, Her Majesty the Queen and Ethan are still here. Pepper pinched Tony's waist. He then came to his senses and came over to apologize to Kerrigan. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, the poor security made you laugh. It doesn't matter. It's good to see your progress in psychic abilities, but Tony, battle armor and super ability are two different things. I'm afraid your trouble will be even greater. Kerrigan chuckled. Tony's teeth were a little sore. This time, it was great to use my psychic power to get a big blow out of my face, but it was indeed more troublesome. He's probably going to be chased by that BD Rhodes. Tony's phone rang. He glanced at the caller's name and forced a smile to Kerrigan, Your Majesty, please go back to the hotel and rest first. I have some things to deal with. Go ahead and remember to resolve it before the Industrial Expo officially starts. Kerrigan stood up gracefully, and Ethan immediately smiled and acted as a guide, leading Kerrigan away. Tony answered the phone, and Colonel Rhodes' series of words made him dizzy. This BD, has his race ability been activated? Who can understand if he speaks so fast? Kerrigan, led by Ethan, returned to the hotel prepared by Tony. After Ethan left with a smile, Kerrigan enjoyed the various delicacies that had been prepared and asked the mutant dragon Lord Gullikrond where his troops had flown. Although she was not planning to produce mutalisks at the Nuya base, the Nuya base still needed air combat units to be stationed there, so yesterday she arranged for Gullikrond to lead some of the mutalisks to the Nuya insect nest. Queen, we are about to arrive at the Nuya hive. Gullikrond responded quickly. Well, stay hidden. Many people are watching us. After struggling for a long time, Tony finally put down the phone tiredly after getting Colonel Rhodes off. In the evening, Colonel Rhodes will go to Tony's house to question Tony and tell him some important things. Ethan came over, how's it going? Not so good. Tony casually threw the reactor in his pocket to Ethan, technically speaking, there is not much difference with our family's technology. Although the craftsmanship is very rudimentary, it is indeed the same technology. This is troublesome. You were able to refuse the officials' coveting of the reactor before because you monopolized the reactor manufacturing process. Now that Yvonne Vank also has the reactor technology in his hands, the official will definitely launch an attack and ask you to hand over the reactor technology. Out technology? Ethan said worriedly. It doesn't matter, our current technology is much better than this old antique. Tony grinned, let's go meet that Yvonne Vanko. Ethan thought the same thing. The performance of Tony's newly developed nuclear reactor directly surpassed the original technology, so there was nothing to worry about. In the field of science and technology, backward technology is garbage. This is an indisputable fact. Under the arrangement of the guards, the two met Yvonne Vank. After some questioning, Tony also learned about the grievances between the Vank family and his own family, and angrily accused Tony's family of being thieves. Tony scowled and left the cell. Ethan followed, wanting to say something, but not knowing how. What Yvonne just said was logical and did not sound like he was lying. Tony sighed, "Ethan, Your Majesty, please go back to New York first. It's really a bad trip." Ethan nodded. Late at night, Tony's house. Colonel Rhodes arrived as promised. He looked at the gloomy Tony and said, "Tony, you claimed before that absolutely no one can master your reactor technology, but now, Ivan Vanko. I know." Tony raised his head. "Although he has also mastered the reactor technology, my technology is far stronger than his, so I will not hand over the reactor technology." Colonel Rhodes had a headache. "Listen Tony, now the official requires you to hand over all your armor and technology immediately." "You do not believe?" Tony sneered, "Ivan Vank's piece of scrap metal is completely incomparable to my new technology." As he spoke, he opened his clothes, revealing the gleaming reactor. "I fulfilled my father's wish and successfully built a reactor with new elements. This is technology that transcends the times, not something picked up from the garbage heap like Ivan Vanko stuff." Colonel Rhodes' eyes widened. "God, you didn't tell us at all." Tony got dressed. "I won't tell you such important things. You just need to believe that I am the best inventor in the world." Colonel Rhodes' mouth twitched. "Well, what about the super ability you showed?" "This stinking BD." Tony spread his hands. "It was taught by the Zerg Queen. If you want to ask her, ask her." Colonel Rhodes twitched the corners of his mouth with a sly smile. "Then let's forget it. Who dares to mess with her if he doesn't care about his life?" Seeing that he couldn't get any useful information from Tony, Colonel Rhodes could only leave with a sigh. Tony shrugged helplessly. In fact, he had prepared a gift for Colonel Rhodes, a good friend, but now it seemed that this gift could not be delivered. After thinking about it, he found Ethan. "Ethan, are you interested in flying around in the armor?" Chapter 46. Ethan waved his hands repeatedly. No, Tony, I advise you to give up this idea." He knew that Tony had always wanted to get him a suit of armor, but he had repeatedly refused. "I'm old, but I don't have the energy to control the armor as a young man like you. And I'm a scientist, so I don't have the power like you." Ethan said with a smile, "I know that you originally planned to give Colonel Rhodes a suit of armor. Firstly, he has really helped you a lot, and secondly, it can also help the military." Tony nodded. Ethan still understood him. "Now you suddenly decided to let me put on the armor because Colonel Rhodes asked you to hand over your technology? Come on, Tony, don't be a petty person. Colonel Rhodes can't help himself. We still need to maintain a good relationship with the military. Contact him and give him the armor." Ethan said with a smile. Tony took a deep breath. "You are right, this armor should still be used by Rhodes." With that said, he picked up the phone. "Rod, I apologize for my attitude just now. Please go back to my house. I have a gift for you." Ethan looked at Tony on the phone, smiled slightly, turned and left. Tomorrow is Tony's birthday, so I have to give him a surprise. On the other side, Yvonne left the prison under the arrangement of a mysterious man. He took a car and came to a warehouse. A man wearing glasses and a suit greeted him with a smile. "Welcome, Mr. Yvonne. I am Justin Hammer, chairman of Hammer Industries." Yvonne sat down carelessly. "You rescue me, what's the matter?" "Definitely, Mr. Yvonne, I checked the conflict between you and the Tony Stark family." "You are right. The Stark family is a group of dirty thieves." Justin smiled and took Yvonne to sit down, and ordered the waiters to serve various delicacies. "Definitely, you will definitely suffer retaliation from Stark Industries now that you have exposed yourself, but..." Yvonne, who was immersed in the food, raised his head. "Say." Justin showed a confident smile. "As long as you are willing to work for me, assist me in developing nuclear reactors, and bring down Tony Stark, I will ensure your safety and you will receive countless honors." Yvonne didn't even raise his head. "What do you have?" "The reactor is easy to say, but the armor is not simple either. Besides, that guy now has super ability." Justin was full of confidence. "Don't worry about this. Hammer Industries is also forming a armored core. According to our calculations, Tony's super ability cannot be used for a long time. His pair of light blades were light blue at first. But as time went on, it turned almost white in the back. Ivan wiped his mouth and tapped the table gently. After a long time, he raised his head. I want to see the goods. No problem. Justin was overjoyed and immediately took Ivan to the Mecha Warrior workshop of Hammer Industries. However, when Ivan looked at these armors, his brows furrowed. Are you going to use this pile of garbage against him? Man, this thing is so cool. Colonel Rhodes, soaring in the sky, cheered excitedly. Ha ha ha, Rod, it seems you like my gift very much. Tony, who was flying with him, was also smiling. I have to say you are really interesting. Don't worry Tony, I will try my best to handle the military side. I will definitely not let them drive tanks to your house. Colonel Rhodes enjoyed the thrill of flying. With your words, I feel relieved, brother. By the way, have you thought about a name for your armor? I really haven't thought about it yet. If you belong to the military, just use War Machine. I'm sure they won't object to the name. The two talked and laughed, flying farther and farther away. However, things were not as simple as Rhodes thought. What, you want to install Hammer Industries weapons on War Machine? Colonel Rhodes slapped the table. Sir, you can't do this. This is the armor that Tony gave me. How can it be loaded with weapons from other companies? He uses Tony's armor, but he uses weapons from Hammer Industries. What's the difference between this and the Minotaur? The general opposite coughed. Soldier, the duty of a soldier is to obey orders, not to ask questions. But. Nothing but, I have invited Mr. Justin Hammer, the chairman of Hammer Industries, and he will bring their company's latest weapons for us to use. The general said with a straight face, Colonel Rhodes, I know that you and Tony are good friends. He generously handed over the armor to you. The military is very satisfied with his cooperation and will protect him, but regarding the armor, transformation is up to us. Colonel Rhodes nodded helplessly. Yes, sir. The general patted Colonel Rhodes on the shoulder earnestly. Colonel, it is a war machine after all. We need to add weapons to this armor to live up to its name. Hammer Industries products are cheap and we are a good partner. Rhodes twitched his mouth. I'm afraid you don't know how much the soldiers below hate Hammer Industries products, right? Although Hammer Industries is indeed not much different from Stark Industries in terms of cutting-edge technology, its frequent malfunctions have always been criticized by soldiers. Soldiers collectively referred to the equipment produced by Hammer Industries as good-looking industrial garbage. However, the commander has said so. What else can Rhodes do? Not long after, Justin Hammer walked up to the two of them wearing a suit and leather shoes with a cheerful face. Whoa, 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 is it my birthday today? You did it, how did you do it? He walked up to the two of them and looked at the placed war machine, his eyes full of joy. Is this what I want? Yes. Colonel Rhodes said calmly. What a disgusting pretentious guy. Mr. Hammer, I was wondering what you could do for us. Justin took out a lollipop and put it in his mouth. Oh, I first need to improve its system for you, and then. Colonel Rhodes interrupted him directly, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm asking about is firepower. Justin tasted the lollipop in his mouth and bit it into pieces. Then you have found the right person. Click. Justin pulled the pistol with a strange structure in his hand, Claridge high-tech, semi-automatic, 9mm pistol. When he saw the dull eyes of several people, he raised his eyebrows. Too small. I agree. He talked to himself and picked up another weapon next to him, M24 shotgun, press action bolt, 5-round magazine. Rhodes smacked his lips. Oh, you're not a hunter. What can I say? I don't want this. Justin put the shotgun aside and said, Billy knows the FN2000. They really have something better than waffles. Justin's sarcastic joke drew no cheers. It's very beautiful, but I can see that you're not satisfied with it yet. Let's leave it here for now. This is a Merkel 40mm grenade launcher, tear gas, smoke, easy to control. Seeing a few people's expressionless faces, Justin could only put it aside. You are really hard to please. He crossed his arms. Tell you, file size is very important, definitely, some people don't think so. Justin picked up a minigun with some difficulty. This is the minigun M1347.62mm machine gun, with 6 independent barrels. It was shattered into pieces and ashes. The young men in the army became gazpacho uncles or Breath of the Dragon. Colonel Rhodes and others continued to remain silent. Oh fine. Justin picked up a small box. This is a good product, just like the brand name cigars from a vintage bar. He opened the box and took out an electronic pen-like object. This is a kinetic energy kill sidewinder missile carrier, and there is a secondary cyclotrimethylene trinitramine sodium explosion. He handed the electronic pen to Rhodes. It can blow up the bunker under the bunker you just blew up. If it were more intelligent, it could write a book. This pen can make Julius look like it was written with a crayon, and it can also read it out to you. Although Justin frowned, his face was full of contentment. He took the electronic pen again, his eyes flashing with nostalgia. This is my Eiffel Tower, my Rachmaninoff's Third Concerto, my masterpiece. It is very elegant and incredibly beautiful. It can transform any building into one. The population was reduced to 0, and I called it the ex-wife. Colonel Rhodes finally became interested. He touched his chin and his eyes moved slightly. Phew, this is my best yet. Justin gently put down his ex-wife. Should we do it again? Give us some reaction. You act like a sphinx, I can't guess. Colonel Rhodes put down his hand. I want it. Which one? I want them all. Chapter 47. Sorry Tony, as you know, I can only take orders from my commander. After much consideration, Colonel Rhodes secretly sent the message to Tony. Tony didn't get angry. It doesn't matter, buddy, I didn't equip your armor with weapons anyway, but those gadgets from Hammer Industries, are you really safe to use them? Rhodes was silent for a long time. They are cheap. Tony was speechless. Also, Justin asked War Machine to attend your Industrial Expo as their group's weapons spokesperson. Rhodes scratched his head and said, TCH, that pile of industrial garbage from Hammer Industries, you still have the nerve to participate in my expo? Forget it, I'll give you face and let that BD come. Tony waved his hand and disconnected the communication. He was actually a little unhappy, but Rhodes couldn't help himself, and he couldn't get angry at him. It's better to check the condition of the reactor again. Don't let that BD Justin look down on you. Tony was about to start working when the lights in the studio suddenly went out. He was stunned and shouted loudly, J.A.R.V.I.S, what's going on? J.A.R.V.I.S showed no response. Did someone cut off my home appliances? No, my home uses an independent power supply provided by a nuclear reactor. Tony stood up, wanting to see what was going on. At this time, a melodious song sounded. This song was very familiar to Tony. It was a happy birthday song. Following the singing, Ethan and Pepper walked into the room pushing the cake cart with smiles on their faces. Tony watched all of this helplessly. Happy birthday, Tony. The two said in unison. Tony was stunned, not knowing how to express his emotions. His eyes were red and tears streaked down his face involuntarily. Thank you, thank you. This was Tony's happiest birthday in the more than 10 years since his parents died. There is no feasting, no debauchery. Some are only warm. Today is your birthday, so you can't cry. Ethan laughed and patted Tony on the back. Quick, make a wish. Tony looked at the two of them and was about to make a wish when the voice of J.A.R.V.I.S rang. Sir, Her Majesty Kerrigan, Queen of the Zerg, is calling. The three of them were stunned. What did Kerrigan want with Tony at this time? Come in. Then, Kerrigan's image appeared in front of the three people. Tony Stark, I heard that today is the day you were born. As a friend recognized by our Zerg race, I specially wish you a happy birthday. In addition, the gift specially prepared for you will be delivered soon. Please check it. Kerrigan said with a chuckle. Tony was overjoyed and bowed deeply. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. You're welcome. There will be many opportunities for us to cooperate in the future. Kerrigan chatted casually with Tony for a few words and then disconnected the communication. I can't believe that His Majesty would still remember your birthday. Pepper was a little surprised. I just don't know what His Majesty will give me. Ethan touched his chin and said. No matter what you give me, I am very satisfied that Your Majesty has this intention. Tony was a little proud. Apart from him, no other person on Earth had the honor of receiving a birthday greeting from the Queen of another intelligent race. JARVIS seal the previously stored anti-Zerg armor. Your Majesty treats me as a friend. I cannot point my gun at my friend. Tony ordered with a smile. Ethan and Pepper didn't object. Indeed, Kerrigan was able to send Tony birthday wishes, which can be said to truly treat Tony as a friend. Not long after, a courier knocked on Tony's door. He handed over the wrapped package, signed for it, and left. The three of them hurriedly took the package and opened it eagerly. What's inside is a book. Psychic Advanced Application Tutorial and Development. Tony found a treasure, and now his development and study of psychic powers had indeed reached a bottleneck. He originally planned to ask Kerrigan for advice during his trip, but he did not expect that the trip was interrupted because of Ivan's incident, so he had to give up. Now that Kerrigan has sent this book, it is undoubtedly a timely help. Tony had no hesitation. He first entered the information in the book into the system and then destroyed the book. This is a treasure. If someone else gets it, I don't know how much trouble it will cause. On the other side, in the hotel where Kerrigan was staying, Jane asked curiously. Queen, you value Tony Stark so much, why don't you let him join the Zerg? Kerrigan smiled slightly, showing off his magnificence. He will not join the Zerg, but he is indeed a hero and a leader among humans. For this reason alone, he deserves my respect. She looked out the window and stared at the stars. After all, no one dares to say that they have the courage to snap their fingers. Justin has been in a great mood these past 2 days. The military not only agreed to his transformation of War Machine, but also completed a large order. The progress of Ivan's transformation is also very gratifying. He is very satisfied with Yvonne as a scientist. Glancing at Justin Hammer, who was looking at the transformed Iron Soldier silly and happy, a trace of contempt flashed in Yvonne Vank's heart. I really don't know how this fool became the chairman of the group. He had changed the permissions of all Iron Soldiers, and this fool didn't even notice. It's good to have a good father. Yvonne sighed in his heart and thought of his father who died in poverty. The hatred for the Stark family grew stronger in his heart. It's all you who took away everything from me. Tony Stark, I will crush you to ashes. The much-anticipated Stark Industry Expo has finally officially begun. Kerrigan brought Jane and Natasha Romanoff to watch the fun. Tony led a group of Stark Industrial executives to greet him outside the door in person. This situation can't help but make people participating in the expo talk about it. Who is this lady? Mr. Stark is so respectful. God, is this lady Angel Linfan? I really want to meet this lady. Those who knew Kerrigan's identity were silent, while those who didn't knew were excited. Welcome, Your Majesty. Tony said respectfully. I just came here to see what you're talking about. Don't let me down. Kerrigan smiled slightly, and many people present began to breathe quickly. Don't worry, please come here and we'll look at it one by one. Tony smiled and led Kerrigan to start the tour. It has to be said that America's industrial technology is indeed advanced. Many of the group's gadgets were very interesting. Jane and Natasha Romanoff were eye-openers, and even Kerrigan was a little moved by some of the exhibits. However, when he approached an exhibition hall with Hammer Industries written on it, Tony continued walking without even looking. Mr. Stark, is there something wrong with this exhibition hall? Jane asked curiously. Tony said disdainfully, what this group produces is just industrial waste, there is no need to visit it at all. With that said, he will continue to move forward. Just then, his phone rang. Tony apologized hastily to Kerrigan and others, and then answered the phone. Tony Stark, today, the history of the Stark family will be rewritten. In the past 40 years, I will find you to pay off the sins your father has committed against my family within 40 minutes. After the person on the other end of the phone said this, he hung up directly. Tony frowned and immediately called Ethan, who was staying at home, to help find the signal source of the call just now. This phone signal is coming from HMM? Hammer Industries. Ethan said in surprise. Tony's eyes widened. What happened, damn it? Come on, Ethan, put on your armor and come to the venue. Chapter 48. While Tony asked Ethan to send the armor over, he shouted loudly, everyone leave the venue immediately and stay away from the Hammer Industries exhibition hall. Guard. Evacuate the crowd. Many people are a little confused. Why are they suddenly being evacuated? But the guards don't care so much. The boss has spoken and it's true that the people should be rushed out quickly. Kerrigan glanced at the messy venue and said to Pepper, who was accompanying him, Miss Potts, go guide the crowd to evacuate. Your Majesty, what happened? Someone is going to attack Tony. Don't implicate innocent people. Go ahead. Kerrigan's eyes were calm, be quick, otherwise many people will die here. Pepper's eyes widened, but she knew Kerrigan had no need to lie to her. After she apologized to Kerrigan and others, she directed the guards to evacuate the crowd. Jane frowned. Queen, do we want it? Natasha Romanoff was silent, she didn't even know what happened. It's really disappointing. Let's go. This place will turn into a battlefield later. After saying that, Kerrigan walked towards the outside of the venue. Although I want to see a play, this is not the right place, so I might as well go to Awaken to watch it. Tony rushed into the Hammer Industries exhibition hall. At the moment, on the stage of the exhibition hall, Justin Hammer was proudly explaining his Iron Soldier, and he was dragging Colonel Rhodes, who was wearing War Machine and had a reluctant look on his face, to chatter. Tony slapped the emergency evacuation button on the wall. In an instant, the music on the colorful exhibition hall stage stopped, an intense red light flashed. The dignitaries and military officials who came here to visit were puzzled. What was going on? I saw Tony rushing to the stage. Everyone evacuate immediately. There is danger here. Justin Hammer angrily shouted, Tony Stark, you ruined my press conference. Colonel Rhodes also said, Tony, now is not the time for you to lose your temper. Tony was not to be outdone, you two idiots have fallen into the trap. Just as Colonel Rhodes was about to speak, he was shocked to find that his armor's weapon system had automatically activated. Target locked, Tony Stark. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The minigun mounted on its back just opened fire. Tony's pupil shrank, and as soon as he said it, he quickly crouched down and rolled like a lazy A, dodging the bullet attack. Justin's eyes widened, wondering what was going on. Colonel Rhodes shouted, Tony, leave quickly, I can't control the armor. At the moment, the steel soldiers standing behind him also activated their weapons and opened fire at Tony. Tony did a backflip to avoid the attack, and shouted at the panicked crowd, run. Quick! The crowd was in chaos, screaming and crying. Justin Hammer stood there, dumbfounded. You idiot! Tony sighed, and his arms glowed with light blue light, forming two light blades. Rod, I'll give you a new one later. As he spoke, he swung the light blade, jumped to the war machine that continued to fire, and swung the light blade towards the minigun. Just for a moment, the minigun instantly misfired. Tony jumped again, dodging the firepower of the Iron Soldiers, and then kicked the stunned Justin out of the venue. You idiot, go and take shelter. The war machine weapon was destroyed, and it instantly activated the cannon on its hand, firing continuously at Tony. Rhodes in the armor was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. But now Tony is not extremely fragile without the armor. The wind is blowing under his feet. When he steps on the wall, he breaks away from the gravity and flies on the wall to avoid the attack. Oh, super ability! Newton's coffin boards were pushed back again. Tony's steps were as fast as lightning, but the firepower net of the Iron Soldiers was too dense, and he could only dodge with his life for fear of being hit. There is no time to use psychic defense now. Tony was extremely anxious. Why hadn't Ethan arrived yet? The fierce battle caused his spiritual energy to be consumed rapidly, and the light blade was almost turning white. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, and a figure crashed through the ceiling and rushed into the battlefield. Ethan is here. Ethan dropped an electronic smoke bomb, and War Machine and the Steel Soldiers instantly lost the ability to lock on to attack. Click with a soft sound, Ethan jumped out of the armor. Quick, Tony, put on the armor. Without saying a word, Tony prepared to put on the armor. Ethan shouted angrily and used his whole body's psychic energy to form a pale white light shield to buy Tony time. Kakaka, the armor fit tightly against Tony's body, and the helmet closed accordingly. War Machine and the Iron Soldiers got rid of the interference of electronic smoke and continued to attack Tony. The light shield constructed by Ethan kept trembling in the storm of bullets. Ethan's forehead was sweating slightly. His psychic power was still too weak. Ethan, retreat quickly. Go to Hammer Industries immediately and shut down the systems that control them. Leave this to me. Tony stood in front of Ethan and shouted. Ethan nodded and quickly ran out of the venue under Tony's cover. Tony ignored the attacks from the Iron Soldiers and made a witty remark to Rhodes. Seriously, man, I've wanted to beat you up for a long time. Rhodes didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Stop talking sarcastically and solve this problem quickly. Outside the venue, people were arranged to evacuate in an orderly manner. Kerrigan had already summoned Awaken, and she was about to take Jane and Natasha Romanoff back to Awaken when a military representative hurried over. Your Majesty, do you know what happened? The person you're working with is too stupid, and he's been deceived all over the place. Kerrigan glanced at the frightened Justin Hammer and prepared to leave. The military representative gritted his teeth. Your Majesty, do you have a way to let us know what's going on inside? This is very important to us. Yes, but... Before Kerrigan finished speaking, the representative stood up straight. We will fully support Umbrella's products and make Umbrella Company an important partner of the military. Having dealt with this Majesty a lot, the military and S.H.I.E.L.D. also know that this is a master who will not let go of the eagle when he sees the rabbit. Kerrigan thought for a while and decided that it would be better to have fun alone than to have fun together. It would be nice to let everyone watch the show together and show some strength. Well. As she spoke, Kerrigan snapped her fingers. A white light curtain emerged in the air, and various images began to appear inside. It's the scene where Tony fights War Machine and Iron Soldiers. That means his eyes widened. What the hell is this ability? Jane was very sensible and moved a more comfortable chair for Kerrigan. Natasha Romanoff was also very discerning and ran to the store at the venue to get popcorn and drinks. The corners of the military representative's mouth twitched. Are you here to watch a movie? Chapter 49. Kerrigan took the drink from Natasha Romanoff and said, Get the general a chair. The representative waved his hands repeatedly. No, thank you, Your Majesty. I will be fine just standing. He is not as relaxed as Kerrigan. Several other military officers gathered around. The representative muttered a few words to them, and everyone stood together to watch the show. As for safety issues. Come on, the Zerg Queen is right around you, why are you worried about safety issues? The light screen released by Kerrigan was like a professional camera, capturing the situation on the battlefield clearly, and everyone felt as if they were watching a blockbuster movie in a theater. Apart from not being able to sit down, there are no shortcomings. The evacuated crowd did not leave and stayed to watch the movie. Little Pepper stared at all this in stunned silence. Ethan ran out of the venue and glanced at the light screen in the sky with a weird look on his face. But it was important to turn off the control system. He contacted Pepper, notified S.H.I.E.L.D, and left in a hurry. Justin Hammer looked at the light curtain with sweat on his face. Tony was hammering his own steel soldiers around like they were sweeping garbage, which made him very frustrated. Tony fought War Machine back and forth. After all, Tony built the armor himself, and its combat effectiveness is trustworthy. Inside the venue, Tony frowned. The venue was still too small and he couldn't do anything. Moreover, although the firepower of Hammer Industrial's garbage was not strong, it still gave him a headache if it attacked too many times. What's more, there was a War Machine watching covetously from the side and taking action from time to time, which caused him a lot of trouble. After thinking for a while, Tony flew out into the big hole made by Ethan without saying a word. Tony needs to find a better battlefield. As soon as he took off, the Iron Soldiers and War Machine quickly followed and flew into the sky. The light screen released by Kerrigan was always behind Tony's mark armor. It was very exciting and the audience screamed in surprise. I saw Tony relying on the powerful performance of the armor to eliminate these steel soldiers one by one according to the terrain. Well done! Smash that pile of scrap metal! The audience cheered in unison, forgetting they were attending an industrial expo and instead thinking they were attending a premiere of a superhero movie. Justin Hammer's face became increasingly ugly. On the other side, Ethan and Pepper rushed into the Hammer Industrial building with S.H.I.E.L.D agents. Faced with S.H.I.E.L.D's arrest warrant, the security guards had no idea of stabbing him. What's the point of playing with $1,000 a month? Everyone kicked open the door of the control room, only to find that there was no trace of Yvonne Vank here, only a few unlucky guys hanging in the control room. Ethan immediately ran to the computer and worked frantically, trying to turn off War Machine's automatic attack system. In the sky, Tony was somewhat proud of having used the terrain to eliminate one Iron Soldier after another. How could these scraps of scraps and scraps be able to play with me? At this moment, there was a roar from behind. Colonel Rhodes rushed out, firing while holding Tony's armor to prevent him from breaking free. Rod, UBD. Stop scolding, do you think I want to? The two armors struggled together and smashed into a large geological museum not far away. The two fell into a pool and continued to fight. Although the minigun is lost, War Machine still has other heavy firepower weapons. Colonel Rhodes rides on Tony and fires wildly, sparks flying, and it is wonderful. The fighting was so fierce that the rockery in the geological museum was smashed to pieces. Success, Ethan pressed the button to turn off Colonel Rhodes' automatic attack system. Colonel Rhodes' armor finally returned to normal. Tony lifted his mask. "UBD, it really hurts you to hit me." "Sorry, I didn't want to either." Rhodes groaned, he was injured a lot just now. Tony reached out and pulled him out of the water. "That Ivan Vank is responsible for this, he must be caught and smashed." Tony gritted his teeth with hatred, this BD had made a huge fool of himself twice in a row. It's so unlucky for him to have to apologize to His Majesty later. The two immediately began to discuss how to find Ivan. At this moment, J.A.R.V.I.S shouted, "Sir, a large number of hostile signals have been detected." Tony was startled, and then he saw a large number of steel soldiers falling from the sky, surrounding the two of them. "We need to use some of the stuff at the bottom of the box. Rhodes, get down quickly!" Tony roared, and two dazzling lasers appeared on his wrist. Colonel Rhodes was so frightened that he lowered his head and shrank into a ball. In just an instant, the steel soldiers surrounding them were all cut into two pieces by laser weapons. "Wow, you look like you're playing fruit slicing!" Colonel Rhodes exclaimed. "That's definitely it." Tony was a little proud, but when he saw the 10% energy displayed in the perspective, his heart sank. Boom! There was another loud noise, and a battle armor fell from the sky. He was not wearing a mask and had a somewhat smug expression on his face. "Tony Stark, I'm here to take revenge on you." It's none other than Ivan Vanko. Ivan released the second-generation death whip that he secretly developed, and said with a ferocious smile, "Tony Stark, now that your super ability and energy are almost used up, I want to see how you are going to fight me." Both sides hated each other so much that Tony was immediately ready to show Ivan a good look. Colonel Rhodes stopped him. "Wait a minute, I'm going to use a special weapon to deal with him. Let me use my ex-wife to FK him to death." As he spoke, the missile launcher hidden on the back of War Machine rose. Tony looked at the missile launcher in surprise. "For what?" Colonel Rhodes didn't answer and turned on his ex-wife. "I have to say that this scene is very technological and futuristic." The frustrated Justin Hammer jumped up, pointed at the light screen and shouted, "Look, this is the ex-wife I developed. This is a real masterpiece." All military representatives cheered in unison, "Crush that BD. Show them the power of your ex-wife." Although the steel soldiers of Hammer Industries have all been defeated, they still have full confidence in the ex-wife's thundering weapon and look forward to her performance. Diddy. The rear end of the ex-wife started to ignite. Ivan on the other side took a step back and looked at the two of them warily. Whoosh! With a soft sound, his ex-wife rushed out instantly like an arrow from a string. At the moment, both Rod and Tony, and the audience watching the movie outside the venue, are all looking forward to the ex-wife's great show. When, with a soft sound, his ex-wife hit Ivan's armor, and then fell into the stream at his feet, the ex-wife's tail jet reluctantly bubbled in the water and went out completely. Ivan raised the corner of his mouth with disdain on his face. Tony and Rhodes were stunned. The atmosphere was very awkward for a time. The audience far away at the venue were also stunned. The boastful Justin was completely dumbfounded. The military representatives were also dumbfounded. How fierce he was when he blew just now, how ugly his face is now. Ha 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 ha, red and hot, in a trance. Jane couldn't help it any longer, pointing at the light curtain and laughing so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. Natasha Romanoff held it in very hard. As a professionally trained agent and now the maid of the Zerg Queen, she would not laugh. Unless you can't help it. She squatted down slowly to prevent herself from laughing, but the huffing and puffing sound showed that she did not laugh. "Well, believe it or not, I believe it." The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly. She actually endured it very hard. Jane's laughter instantly caused the audience to laugh in unison, and the atmosphere inside and outside the venue was filled with joy. The faces of the military representatives seemed to be illuminated by neon lights, one part red and one part white. They rolled up their sleeves, exposed their strong muscles, waved their fists as big as sandbags, and pushed the stunned Justin to the ground to explode the hammer. "It's all UBD. You're going to be court-martialed for this. Beat him to death and don't hold back." This time, the military's face was totally disgraced. In the Geological Museum, Tony broke the silence. Weapons from Hammer Industries. Right. Chapter 50. Ivan sneered and gave an order. A large number of steel soldiers appeared in the sky again. Ivan was fully prepared this time and was about to kill Tony to death. Tony opened fire, but it had no effect on Yvonne. The iron soldiers opened fire in unison, beating Rhodes and Tony until they were covered in sparks. Tony, think of a way. Colonel Rhodes was overwhelmed by the fire and couldn't hold his head up, shouting. Just thinking. Tony was extremely anxious, but decided to fly into the sky first. He released the palm cannon and took advantage of the cover to rush into the sky. Colonel Rhodes also hurriedly followed. Want to run? Chase me. Yvonne laughed ferociously and commanded the steel soldiers to chase after him. Fly separately, I'll lure these crappy things away. You go and call for reinforcements. After shouting at Rhodes, Tony found a random direction and sped away. Yvonne didn't care about Rhodes, who was leaving. He had only one goal from beginning to end. Tony Stark. Hundreds of iron soldiers followed Tony and fired wildly. Amidst the hail of bullets, Tony kept adjusting the direction of his flight, trying to avoid the attack. Tony Stark, the way you ran away really made me feel happy. Yvonne laughed loudly and chased after him. Tony was so angry that his teeth itched, but he could only run away like crazy. Now that his energy was tight, he couldn't attack at all. Sir, our energy is running out. J.A.R.V.I.SS report made Tony feel even heavier. Fly to the suburbs, never fight in the downtown area. Tony glanced at the pursuers behind him with a serious expression, gritted his teeth and continued the flight. In the light curtain above the venue, people watched the propellers on Tony's feet flickering on and off, and their hearts trembled. A military representative widened his eyes. No, Mr. Stark's energy is going to be exhausted. Go to support. Where are our fighter jets? What are we doing for food? Just after watching the movie, everyone was in a relatively relaxed mood, but now Tony really has a problem and everyone is panicking. However, Jane approached Kerrigan and said, Queen, Mr. Stark is almost flying over our outer curtain. Kerrigan nodded, thinking to herself. This guy, is he causing trouble, or is he doing it unconsciously? He probably doesn't know the location of the real insect nest. Forget it, let's help. She calmly used the psychic network to communicate with Galakrond. Prepare to meet the enemy, save the gold and red iron lump, and kill the others. As you command, Queen. When Tony was about to reach the sky above the outskirts of New York, his energy could no longer support flight. Snap! The foot's engine was completely shut down, and even the J.A.R.V.I.SS power supply could not be maintained. Tony exclaimed and fell straight towards the ground. People at the venue covered their eyes and did not dare to look anymore. However, the expected tragedy did not happen. They heard Tony ask in surprise. What's this? Everyone quickly looked around, and it turned out that Tony had fallen into a shadow. Tony stood up on the back of the shadow and turned on the lighting system. This was the last bit of energy. Tony, who never believed in God, murmured these words. Through the light, he finally saw clearly what the shadow beneath his feet was. He actually stepped on the back of a huge amount of monster. The monster's wings were flapping gently, and its head was extremely large. Although he couldn't see its face clearly, Tony knew that this thing was definitely not easy to mess with. Looking around, I don't know when the surroundings are full of such monsters. However, other monsters are much smaller. At the venue, people's eyes widened and they looked at each other, having no idea what these things were. The military representatives looked at Kerrigan with wandering eyes. The corners of Kerrigan's mouth raised slightly, and they understood. It seems that the Zerg are out. That's okay. Are these Zerg air units? This is the first time I've seen them. Keep your voice down, don't forget, we are the ones who caused the trouble this time. With His Majesty's character, the bill will be sent to the Pentagon as soon as the matter is settled. Everyone twitched and looked at Kerrigan again. The smile on Kerrigan's face grew even brighter. No one dared to look any further, nor did they dare to say, Your Majesty, please stop, we have no money. They could only turn around and vent their anger on Justin Hammer, fighting with fists and kicks. Kerrigan retracted the light curtain. The remaining things cannot be seen by too many people, and the movie ends here. The audience felt disappointed, and some began to ask what was going on, but were immediately asked to shut up by a group of men in black. S.H.I.E.L.D has also arrived. Nick Fury walked up to Kerrigan and looked at her deeply. Thank you for your intervention, Your Majesty. You're welcome. The movie is over and I should go back. See you later. Kerrigan chuckled and left the venue with Jane and Natasha Romanoff. Suburbs. A monster flew close to Tony, and an inexplicable voice sounded in his mind, "Tony Stark, you have broken into the Zerg territory." Tony grinned, "This is Zerg territory? Your Majesty, you hide so deeply." "Sorry, I was chased by the enemy and flew here," Tony said awkwardly. "The Queen ordered us to rescue you back to the ground. Now get off my back." The voice continued. Only then did Tony realize that it was the monster under his feet that was talking to him. "I'm going down now." "No, that guy is still chasing me." "Are you talking about the guys wearing iron knots like you? They are already here, don't affect my fight." The monster at his feet said this, shook his body, and sent Tony onto the back of another monster, which immediately carried Tony to the ground and then returned to the queue. "Brother, at least tell me your name so I can thank you later." Tony stood on the ground and yelled. "Your Majesty considers himself a friend, so the Zerg are also friends. There is no harm in making more friends." "Galakrond, Lord of the Mutant Dragon, Galakrond." The voice responded calmly. Ivan was suspended in the air with the steel soldiers. He frowned and looked at the monster in front of him with surprise and uncertainty in his heart. Where did these monsters come from? But the alien dragons on the opposite side didn't care about his problems. Following Galakrond's command, a hole opened in the tail of the laminosaurs. Continuous soft sounds resounded on the battlefield, and the blade insects spurted out from the tail of the Mutallosaurus, roaring towards the steel soldiers. In just a moment, Ivan's alarm system started shouting crazily. His pupils shrank and he immediately avoided the blade insect's attack. Unexpectedly, the blade insect that missed the attack burst into several pieces, and the juice splashed on Ivan's armor, making a sizzling sound. Ivan looked shocked, how corrosive the strider was. As the symbiosis of the alien dragon, the blade insect is extremely violent and full of blood. If he disagrees with you, he will immediately blow himself up. The moment the two sides fought, more than 10 iron warriors controlled by Ivan were shot down. But Ivan is not one to sit still and wait for death. "I don't care what the hell you are, if you dare to stop me from killing Tony Stark, then you will die with him. How could these obviously biological things be the opponents of my steel armor? A flesh and blood body will only be smashed into powder in front of steel." He carefully observed the structure of the alien dragons and judged that although the long-range attack speed of these creatures was not weak, their mobility relied entirely on a pair of wings, so they would never be able to match the extremely fast iron warriors in terms of mobility. How fast can a pair of wings go? Ivan quickly adjusted the formation of the remaining iron warriors and used all his horsepower to rush into the formation of the alien dragon, hoping to fight it in close combat. There are far more alien dragons than steel warriors, so close combat is the only chance of victory. Galakrond faced the accelerating iron soldiers, his eyes filled with the desire to fight. It opened its mouth wide and roared loudly. The bodies of the alien dragons ejected into invisible gas, and with the push of the gas, they faced the steel soldiers at an unbelievable speed. Not good. Ivan's pupil shrank, but it was too late. He could only order the steel soldiers to fire to intercept. The alien dragons flew across the sky quickly, swaying lightly and agilely in the gunfire of the steel soldiers. Galakrond is the fastest. It flapped its wings and cooperated with its body's jet organs to dodge the gunfire. It rolled again and landed behind a steel soldier, dodging it before tracking and shooting. 0. It is unimaginable that such a huge amount of body can do such agile actions. The alien dragons drew a spiral trajectory in the sky. They quickly rushed into the Iron Warriors formation. Galakrond made a beautiful turning turn, like a fallen leaf in the wind, and got into the frontal formation of the Iron Warriors. The blade insects spurted out again, blasting these steel warriors to pieces. Ivan tried his best to avoid waves of attacks from the alien dragons, but in the end he was outnumbered and was hit in the core of his chest by Galakrond. The core instantly shattered into dregs, and Ivan, who lost his power, spun and fell from the sky. Tony saw this and ran towards the direction of Ivan's fall. After dealing with the remaining enemies, Galakrond flew back to the ground and came to Tony's side. Tony looked at the huge amounts of his body and was secretly shocked. Tony sighed and looked at Ivan, who was lying on the ground. Ivan is not dead yet. He coughed up blood and said with a ferocious smile, "Tony Stark, you are such a lucky guy." Tony nodded, "You're right, I've always been very lucky." Ivan struggled and pressed a button on his waist. "Then, let's die together." He pressed it hard towards his waist. Tony's pupils shrank and he was about to dodge, but Galakrond's reaction was faster than him. A blade insect jumped up instantly and blew Yvonne in half. He walked away peacefully, at least very quickly. There was a trace of intolerance in Tony's eyes, but Gullikrond had no concept of mercy. At this moment, Tony's phone rang. Tony was a bit stunned. The phone in his pocket could still be used? When I got on the phone, it was Kerrigan. Tony, Ethan handed me your newly developed reactor. I am very satisfied. Our transaction is completed. Tony said with a smile, as long as Her Majesty the Queen is satisfied, that's fine. However, the Zerg will take action tonight. Tony really had a headache. But for the sake of face, Tony still said, understood, Your Majesty, I owe the Zerg and you a favor. The phone was hung up. Tony sighed and glanced at Gullikrond. Thank you, Mr. Gullikrond. Can we have some tea and a massage together when you have time? Gullikrond thought this human was strange. He took the alien dragon with him and disappeared into the night sky. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.